Hey, good afternoon, Ooh. Good afternoon, everybody. We get new microphones. I can actually hear myself. Thank you for attending today, the conference meeting this October 18th, 2022. We appreciate all of you who are in attendance. We have a sparse crowd, but a very heavy agenda. So why don't we get to it? All right. Good to be back. So why don't we jump to communications, since there's only one communication. It's a very simple communication. I didn't quite understand the communication, so maybe somebody can explain it to us. Let me just jump to that. This is a motion made by Mary Fertig, seconded by Mr. Schechtman. This is regarding from the Planning and Zoning Board to create a sea level rise task force. There's no explanation to it that I could see. I do know that we have a sustainability advisory board, but does anyone have any thoughts about anyone who's on staff who's here to speak with regard to this?
But Mayor, I think we did get a memo while you were out of town that basically, right, City Manager?
Yes.
You sent us a menu that
Good
basically,
afternoon.
a memo that basically said, like you mentioned, Mayor, let the Sustainability Advisory Board deal with this because that's under their purview.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right. I'm not sure what the goal of the sea level rise task force would be, but
So certainly, as Commissioner Glassman mentioned, we already cover that with the other advisory boards. So it would be a duplicate effort. And I think that they could leverage already what's existing today to accomplish those goals. And that was shared with that group. So they're certainly welcome to attend, collaborate, and work together to reach those goals.
okay. Very good, thank you. All right, so let's start with Business 1, City Hall update. Mr. City Manager.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Wanted to give you an update for the new City Hall. Wanted to talk a little bit about why we need a new City Hall. So this is a process that started 5 years ago with the commission. This commission had lots of involvement in shaping the vision, shaping the need, but just wanted to highlight, because there's been a lot that has been done to this point, and wanted to highlight where we're at and why a new City Hall is very important for our shared success and also for our growth. So giving some background about the City Hall that we currently occupy, it opened up in 1969. It's a structure that has had extensive repairs, upgrades. The floor size and the layout has also been configured to adopt the new workforce. We co-locate a variety of city services here at the City Hall. And just want to give some perspective as to how we've grown as a city and how we have a need today to grow the facility as well. For instance, when the City Hall was open, the population of Fort Lauderdale was 84,000. Today, with our population, we certainly have a scale that would require staff to support all the services for the population that today is north of 185,000. And so as we look at the opportunities that are before us, we do have a need to pursue a co-located site so that we can offer the best services possible. So about the current space that we have today, we have our City Hall as a host building for 105,000 square feet. It is 8 floors, and currently 476 to 500 public service professionals occupy the space. What I also want to highlight is that we have dispersed offices or scattered offices across downtown. And within that, we have approximately 130,000 square feet that we annually rent at a cost of $1.5 million. We have, for instance, also a disconnected workforce. We have 3 charter officers that occupy one building, and we have one that occupies in a separate building. In 2018, a study was performed where the study showed that there was a need to increase collaboration and also department space. Interviews were held as well, and the sentiment was that there was a range of dissatisfaction with the current workspace. Right now with our city hall, we've had renovations and still need renovations for certain things such as the HVAC, the elevator. We have issues with one particular elevator. Out of the 3, only 2 work because the parts are very hard to find. Floors, our security capabilities are also limited. And in 2018, that same report evaluated the need for renovation and placed a price tag of $31 million to upgrade or repair or renovate the current city hall. So now if we look at those expenditures and put it in today's dollars, it would be somewhere north of $50 million. Now, if we do renovate City Hall, right, if that's an option to consider, it certainly is today, it certainly limits us with our capabilities because we still would not have the hurricane hardening that new construction materials offers. So it would also leave the City Hall at risk for future tropical storms. And also a renovation would still limit us with our spacing arrangements, limit our facilities with the public to just the chambers, the first floor and the 8th floor. And we still would have dispersed groups scattered across downtown with redundant IT costs, overhead costs, and also, again, the limited ability for the public to access the majority of their services in one central location. So our goals are there, defined. We have goals, aspire to have a location to centralize staff, modernize spacing, have green, energy efficient building capabilities. And we also want to have a city hall that is inviting to the public. We want to have a city hall that that also is warm to business members, investors, and has easy access to the community. We also, if we consider a new city hall, we also have the ability to perhaps partner with medical healthcare providers, educational partners for our professional workforce, and also host amenities that are throughout downtown or remote places. We could have them all in one spot, which not only can support the working class for City Hall public servants, but also other professionals here in downtown. When we did this analysis previously, when looking at the Joint Government Center, we were looking at an obligation, annual obligation of close to $10 million, with of those $6 million coming from the general fund. The other $4 million would come from enterprise funds, as the City Hall can host, or future City Hall could host enterprise fund departments. Now the question is, how do we pay for this? There are today better options than before. For instance, there are federal loans today. As we visited the Transportation Department, there are federal loans that accommodate a 75-year repayment period. And what that does is it certainly minimizes the annual contribution for paying off the loan. And it also allows us to accelerate certain projects and that are nearby train station. This facility or City Hall facility would qualify as a transit-oriented design facility. Additionally, we can look at the Economic Development Administration as they host programs that support economic development, and they can certainly support facilities that build capacity for economic prosperity and resiliency of a region. And so We have those options, and additionally, we have the option to do public-private partnerships, as we have right now a proposal that to consider, and that allows us to leverage private equity and helps us again accelerate the fulfillment of a city hall or completion of a city hall without with minimal capital investment from the general fund or from city funds. So our next steps is to evaluate the city hall options. We want to evaluate the current proposal right now. Staff is reviewing it at the moment. We want to ensure that all options are ones that are sound and meet the needs of the city before we present to you. So whether we pursue a P3 or design build process, we need to also secure an owner's rep. So in the weeks to come, we are going to be posting an RFP for an owner's rep to serve as an external consultant as we look forward into this process. And again, we will look for federal financing. We have a presentation later on in the meeting that will showcase how we can get to those federal funds and what would be the next steps for seeking those options. So that was an update that I wanted to share with you. I wanted to also have the ability to provide that to the public so that everyone's aware or has a baseline of why we are pursuing a new city hall and available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think it needs to be repeated that this has been a process that's been going on for several years. The city had committed money towards a needs assessment, which took place, and I believe we have the results of that needs assessment through the Ziskovich firm. And we were doing that as a result of an intention to partner with the county to do a joint government center. And when we all realized that the effort was getting out of hand and that the cost of a joint government center was going to far exceed anyone's expectations, I think we decided to take the process back into our own government and not a shared government enterprise. And I think that's what resulted in the unsolicited proposal coming to the city, and that's the posture we're now in. I think, personally, it's been a long time coming to try to do what we could with regard to trying to rehabilitate this building, but I think we have pretty much squeezed the life out of this building, and I personally feel at some point we really need to look at our options as far as what our next steps are. And now I wait to hear what my colleagues on the commission have to say. Commissioner, Vice Mayor, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So I think just continued exploration of opportunities for City Hall makes sense and is needed.
Okay. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes, I concur. It's time that we move forward on something with this.
All right, so what are our next steps, Greg? I know there's some further investigation. I guess we should probably continue this discussion after the election so the new commission will be able to weigh in on some of this decision-making and give those folks an opportunity to participate in the direction we're going to be going in. But clearly a path has been set towards some type of change from what we have today, especially since you point out that this city hall was intended to service a city that was far smaller than what we have today, and the expectations of a community that were far less than what we see today. And I applaud our city staff for working within the conditions that we currently have. The fact that we have 130,000 square feet of outside office space is staggering. And so I'm hopeful that we'll be able to save money as well as to provide greater efficiencies by working collaboratively in a central location. So just keep us posted on your progress, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners.
Mayor, I do have a question, though, because we did receive, I don't remember what time, but we did receive a walk-on item for this evening, in terms of the proposal. We did receive an unsolicited proposal on September 8th.
Right.
So what's
How do we
the-
respond to that, Greg? What is this, what is the process at this point?
Yes, so right now, yes, we did have a walk-on item, but we really want to, staff wants to evaluate this a little further. And also, if you give us a little more time, we also have the opportunity to allow the future commission also to weigh in and also be part of this process, which continues what this current commission started. So there was ample work that was done by this commission to get us to this point. The work that was done with Siskovich is significant because those needs assessments are going to help us accelerate the project even further. So we're very appreciative of that vision being set for staff to pursue.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on to business two, an update on an update on police community engagement initiatives. Chief, how are you?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. There we go. I guess I moved a little too quickly. Just a brief update on a few of the things that we're working on in the police department. In the few months that I've been here, one of the things that became apparent to me and to all of us is that essentially a lot of what we're looking at is we need to get back to where we were pre-COVID. We were involved in many community activities, many different meetings and events. So the goal is to get back to that. So I'm only going to be mentioning a few things today, but wanted to highlight a couple of those things. The first thing I think I've heard the most about was what had been called our NAT teams. I think at every HOA meeting I've attended, I've heard it at the commission meetings here from our community that we would like to have our NAT teams back. So we've taken a look at that. We were very fortunate that the commission voted to add 17 officers to our budget. So that effort is now coming to fruition. We have our first team put together, one sergeant, a number of officers. This will be a little different from what NAT was because we're adding a sergeant with each team. Each team will be assigned a district, and we're adding traffic officers, a PSA to this team also. And they're going to be giving basically direction on what needs to be assessed and how to address whatever issue it is. It's my philosophy that the district captains are essentially district chiefs, and we need to hold them accountable as they have been, but we also need to give them the tools to empower them to do the things that they need to do. This is one step in that direction. So we're excited to have them back. I know there's been a lot of questions about that. I know a lot of people have asked about it. So thank you for your support with that, and we'll be bringing them back. This is something that is in the works. You're familiar, I'm sure, with the new YMCA facility on Sistrunk Boulevard. Beautiful facility. They have offered us space on the corner of the first floor. It would be a tremendous asset for us if we could do that. The facility that we're in now is limited. This, to me, is much more approachable. It's much more modernized, and it'll allow us to do some things that we're not really doing in the other facility now. But this is in the works. It's not finalized yet, but everything so far is looking good. So we're excited about that, and hopefully that will be online in the next few months. Of course, we'll be coming back to you as we have this finalized, so looking for your support in that. So the Citizens Police Academy, I believe that this is something critically important. It's important for the community to understand how officers work, what it is that officers do. This was something that was in place pre-COVID. We're looking to bring that back in the coming months. A number of these things, we've had to do some internal changes, some internal reorganization. We've made a few promotions. We have a few more promotions coming. And once those things are in place, we have our team ready to go, then we can invite the public back in to attend these classes. And we're very much looking forward to that, excited about that, because the feedback that we always get from that is very positive. It's often very enlightening for people to see how things actually work within the police
So the
department.
academy is not operating right now?
No, this is not the police academy. This is for the public to come into the police
Yeah,
department.
I
here.
understand that. I attended the Citizens Police Academy years ago.
Yeah.
It was a prerequisite for becoming a member of the Citizen Police Review Board. So how long has this not been operational?
I think it was pre-COVID that it was stopped because of COVID.
Okay, that's not a good thing. So I'm
It's-
glad you're reinstituting
It's
it.
coming back.
Okay.
Quickly as we can.
All right, thank you.
Internal affairs has been an area we've had a number of questions about. We are now, due to some internal changes, like I mentioned, promotions and transfers, our internal affairs unit is almost completely new people from when I first started. That is certainly not any reflection of the people who were there because they were doing a great job. But with these changes now, we're enhancing the amount of training that they have. We're changing our policies. All complaints will be investigated with the finding. We've started new software. It's called Blue Man, but I won't go into all the details of that. But every complaint will be documented and investigated. And I think for the future, I think it'll allow us to identify any type of problems that arise earlier than we have been able to do in the past. Mayor, noise cameras. We're working on it. There's a number of details that need to be worked out with this. We are doing the enforcement now. That's already happening, so I don't want you to think that we're waiting for this to do any kind of enforcement. That's ongoing. The city manager has made it clear to me that this is a priority, but we'll be working with the city attorney to develop any ordinances that are necessary. We'll be reaching out to other agencies, and we have, to look at the technology and see how it would apply to us and how we can implement this.
So can we establish a timeline for this? Because I don't want this to take 3 years. Is there some way we can try to implement a program? We're coming into season, we're coming into a lot of activity in our community. There's going to be a lot more sources of noise. With more people on A1A and Las Olas, it's more of an incentive for exhibitionists to take their wheelies and drive them up and down our streets. We don't want this. And just to say, well, we're working on it, this needs to be in place by January 1st.
Well, we're cognizant of the urgency of it. We'll be working with PD on what they're finding in other jurisdictions as to best practices that they've learned. So,
That doesn't
we
take
benefit
long.
from that. It shouldn't take long, no. And then we have to just make sure that we craft it in a legal way that we're able to operate it efficiently, legally. And but certainly, I don't think it's undoable to have that by the first of the year. But again, I have to. The police has been doing the brunt of the work so far with regards to research. We've done some research ourselves.
Okay.
But once we have that all in place, we can package it and bring it back to you.
Are these devices readily available? Do you know, Chief?
I don't know what the timeline is on making a purchase. Like, are you asking if we were to purchase it today, how long before we have it? Yeah, that I don't know yet.
Mayor, may I?
Yeah.
So these devices cost $25,000 each. They are successfully installed in Chattanooga, and they have provided a positive impact. However, Chattanooga challenge is that they have not been able to codify or provide a legal way to enforce. What we can do.
But wait a minute, let's stop there for a second. We have a state statute that Chattanooga doesn't have.
And that's very different, right? So we certainly can purchase the product. We can certainly install it to run a pilot in a defined area and provide education about what these cameras do. And we can certainly look at working with the legal department to see how we can implement that and enforce it. We can certainly commit to having the product on hand if it is available and installed easily, because the city of Chattanooga advised that these were purchased from the United Kingdom, and they were easily installed, and they were actually guided through a YouTube video on how to install them. Believe it or not. So
See?
we can certainly look at bringing those in.
All right,
it's-
whatever
and
you
it-
could do. I
and
know
just to point
we're all inundated with complaints, so.
From the legal side also, it's not just the fact that the statute allows us to regulate noise in some respects. But again, depending on if these are European made, whichever, if you recall, red light cameras, and there's a lot of parameters that have to be covered in order for us to rely on that as evidence to actually prosecute someone for fines or any sort of adversarial process. So if those things are not in place, if all we get is, hey, it was too loud, does it really pinpoint the car? Does it pinpoint the source? How does it pinpoint it? How does it confirm it for us where police can actually act on it? legitimately. It's like if you call and say, well, that guy was speeding, police can't do anything with that, right? So
No, but
the technology has to be, and I haven't seen the technology, but hopefully they have enough software that can mimic the type of data that police is going to need to be able to enforce it.
Well, like red light cameras, they take a picture of your license plate, okay?
Right, and there's all kinds of data, there's timing, there's lights, all that. I don't know if these do.
And I understand that, but something tells me that the technology is there, and if not, I'd be surprised, but certainly I appreciate you moving forward on this, because, it is annoying. I was in another city a couple of weeks ago, and we were sitting across from their waterfront with a road, and just like what we have on A1A. And I was sitting with some folks having dinner, and just one motorcycle after another. And I looked at the mayor, with whom I was having dinner, and I said, "How do you deal with this?" He just shrugged his shoulders. And so I told him what we're trying to do. We have a statute that allows for noise enforcement. And, he said, "Lucky you, because we don't have that." So whatever we can do to try to minimize the impact of noise by people who are doing it for recreational purposes, I just think, we should not suffer the indignity of these kinds of activities. So. Okay.
We're
thank
on it,
you.
Mayor. And if I may, just one last thing. I have several members of my command staff with me today. I just want to say thank you to them. I think you know them all, Chief Swisher, Chief Alvarez, Major London. They and the other members of the command staff are the driving force behind these changes. And I have said many times, my goal is we have a phenomenal police department. My goal is to not break it and just listen to what the experts have to say and move it forward. So
there's one category that's not on here. Could you tell us a little bit about your homeless outreach and what success or lack
I
of
think
success?
we have another
here?
presentation coming up on that.
Is there another Is this
Yeah, we
part
have
B?
another presentation which police is a component of.
Okay.
Which is led by Neighbor Support. And
Okay.
that's an upcoming presentation.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
questions of the chief?
Chief,
Don't go away.
Yeah, go ahead. Thanks, Chief. Thanks for all your work. Can you tell me a little bit more about the community support units? Like how many people, how that connects to the neighborhood? Just let me
So we have 3 police districts right now.
Right.
We have a captain assigned to each district.
Yeah.
My goal, as I mentioned, is that we want the captains we want to hold them accountable, but they need to be empowered and have the tools to solve whatever issues arise. So what we've done is we have a sergeant assigned to the captain for each district. That sergeant will have their own support team, and that team will consist of the people that I mentioned. We meet regularly to discuss the crime statistics in the community, the complaints in the community, traffic issues in the community, and the captains are tasked with, now that they have these units, these officers in place, solving that particular problem and then reporting back to us the following week what was accomplished.
Okay, and so, great, so the sergeant has a team, and that one sergeant and their team is responsible for the, district HOAs and going and,
Yes.
Okay.
Many of what Nat used to do, plus a bit of an enhancement over what they were doing.
okay, and how big is that team? Like, how many people are we talking about, or at one
Ultimately, I
shift?
think we'll have 6 people on each team.
6 people on each team, and is that 6 people, so you have like a couple each shift? Is that how it kind of works?
We don't have staffing to allow this to be a 24-hour day thing. It's just one team on duty. Now, we'll adjust their schedule, their hours to address any
team.
specific problem, but it's not a 24-hour day thing.
Oh, so there won't, okay, so there won't be
That-
neighborhood support 24 hours a day?
No, that would require many more officers. It's 6 people for the day shift. If they were to do that for 2 more shifts, then you would need 6 more
Okay,
people for each.
so the whole unit's just on days?
Well, it's generally on days, but if there's a problem that's occurring on the evenings or the midnight, they'll adjust their schedule
Okay.
to address that concern.
So a lot of HOA meetings in a city are in the evenings.
Yes.
So will the day shift be able to go to evening meetings?
Yes, and we're continuing our department-wide community policing philosophy with the officers in the neighborhoods involved with the HOAs also.
Okay. Okay, all right, thanks.
Any questions,
yes,
Commissioner?
thanks. Thank you, Mayor. Chief, first of all, thank you for your leadership, command team, thank you, and the entire department. Very appreciative.
Thank you.
I have a request. You mentioned the possible substation at the Y, and that made me think about the Las Olas Oceanside Park. When that park was built, we included specifically a space that was dedicated to be a police substation. That's never happened, and I'm hoping that maybe you and the city manager can get together and figure that out, because I think we really need it there.
Right.
for the activities that are happening in the park and on the beach, the concerns and the complaints that I hear from the residents, not just on the Barrier Island, but even over the Las Olas Bridge and, heading that area. I really think that police substation at the Las Olas Oceanside Park should be activated.
We would like to do that also. I know that the city manager and I have discussed that. IT is looking, the last I spoke with them, looking at the cameras and the computer connections out there. So we are hoping to do something with that in the near future. But we should be careful when we talk, we use the term substation. I don't want to lead anyone to believe that it's a 24-hour day operation always staffed by police officers. So to the extent that we can, we'll make the maximum use of that facility, but it's essentially 2 offices. So.
I just think it needs to be just a step up from what
Absolutely.
we're not doing now. And that space was dedicated for that when that park was constructed.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we've discussed with the new community teams, like assigning them to the Sistrunk station or assigning them to the Beach District, maybe operating from that facility as circumstances allow. Our goal is this also will increase visibility in that area too, so.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you for that consideration. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Business 3, mental health awareness.
So Mayor, as the stakeholders for mental health awareness are coming up, we realize that there's an important need to provide awareness about the resources available for mental health. We've invited some of our partners and stakeholders in the community that lend that support, and they're here to describe how they can help Fort Lauderdale.
Hi, and thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Mayor and Commission. We're here to talk about mental health in light of some recent incidents that we've had with mental health and struggles and talking about suicide. We've asked to come here, and we really appreciate this opportunity to talk about mental health and mental wellness. So really, I'm here to talk about where do we go when we need help, and to really just share it's okay to not be okay. My name is Billy Morgan, and I'm with 211 Broward. And let's see, can I control this? Oh, I can. And so I'm going to go quite quickly with what you can see here so you can kind of get a picture of where to go when you need help and support. I have my partner here as well, and she's going to be talking from NAMI about resources and support that one of our providers in our community offers, and mental health in general, and suicide and crisis. So our counselors are highly trained. We are a free service. We're 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and as you can see in this visual here, we offer advocacy and follow-up. Now, many of you, I ask in the community, how many of you have heard of 211? I hopefully will see a lot of hands go up. So it's an important number to call when you don't know the number to call. Many of you might not have known about a new program called 988, which is federally funded, and our 211 answers that in response to those calls for our suicide and mental health crisis. So if you know somebody who is struggling with mental health, I wanted to make sure that our community knows about this really important resource known as 988 as well, an easy to remember 3-digit number line that is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, answered by us. So as you can see in the visual here, supportive listening, we provide assessments and referrals, and it's my favorite price, it's 100% free. So I wanted to also say our funding comes from various sources, and I actually will get to that in a moment. In the past, what would happen is that you would see that somebody would say, I need support, I don't know where to go. We're that number to call. We're that resource that you should know and share with each other, with those that you care about. So now 211 simplifies that. We're here to assist you. We're here to connect you to what's out there in our community. I only have a few more minutes to really talk about this, but I really wanted to also share our funders and partners that keep these doors open here at 211. And as you can see, our county here is a major part of that. So I really wanted to also add the aspect of suicide and mental health. And why I was invited to come here is to really share that people will have thoughts, that we have anxiety, we have mental health, we have other needs in our community, and many of us might be struggling with that ourselves or know somebody who is. It's highly likely that we all will experience something like this in our lifetime. And all I want to do is share that there is a place to go for resources and support. It's 24 hours a day, and I do hope that you will share that number and be able to help people find hope and help in our community. So let's see if there's anything else I want to add here. We have many services at 211 that we offer, and we offer services for veterans, for seniors, for youth. It runs the gamut. So anybody who needs help and support, this helpline is here. So I really hope I'm just setting that message out there, sending it out there so that people know this is the number to call when you need support and don't know where to go. And the many services include substance abuse, struggles with mental health, suicide, any behavioral health needed support. We're here to answer that call. So, and I just wanted to add that magical 3-digit number is 988. That is the suicide prevention lifeline. So I have a visual here so you can see it's as simple as dialing 988 now, which is amazing and simplified and an easy to remember number that you will please share with others who might be struggling with mental health. And a lot of cases, you just want to know how to help a friend or a loved one. Call us. Our counselors are trained professionals that will be able to help guide you, tell you about resources and support, and or just to make sure that that person is going to stay safe. Provide the interventions that might be needed for that person and make a call to that person if that's the case. So the last thing I want to share is that our website's available to you. We have an app as well at 211. So if you want to download the app, get those resources right at your fingertips, you can dial us, you can chat with us. There's no obstacle to reaching the support and help and hope that our community might need. So really, I was setting the stage for that. And then my partner is also going to be coming up here and talking about what she can do for our community for mental health. And it's just one of our many partners that we can link up to. Yeah, come on up. And so I'll let you introduce yourself. And I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to speak and to share about 211. And that next step is going to be linking up with us to find the help that you need. That's it for me.
Great, thank you so much.
Yes, my pleasure.
And who are you introducing?
Is it Dr. Sandra Crump?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor,
Welcome.
Commissioners. I'm Dr. Sandra Kumper from the National Alliance on Mental Illness. We probably all know it if anybody does. It's NAMI, Broward County. What started as a small group of individuals in a very small room has expanded to the greatest and loudest voice on mental health in the country. We have affiliates and associates throughout the country. This is too close. Throughout the country, over 600 to be exact. And we have programs that provide education, training, and a lot of advocacy for individuals living with their families, their loved ones, family members, caregivers, all provided free to the community. So I'm going to expand a little bit on what Billy just talked about as to why we need 988, why we need to recognize and bring awareness to mental health. And I like to go with the statistics because that's what we do at NAMI. And I want to talk about, we all know about the 5 in 1 or 1 in 5. Every person here, I can probably guarantee that you've heard that 1 in 5 individual may be diagnosed with a mental illness in any year. But to add to that, I also want to let you know that, let me go back to my little thing here before we get further here. I also want to let you know that we need to be aware of the signs and the symptoms surrounding mental illness. And it does not discriminate. Mental illness doesn't look at you and decide, I'm going to choose you today because you are, beautiful or you're ugly or you're whatever. It does not discriminate. Mental illness can affect every person, anywhere, anyhow, and anytime. So it's important for us to be aware of the signs, aware of the symptoms, because we need to take action if we're diagnosed with a mental illness. Why do you really need to pay so much attention to mental health, to your mental health? And I'll tell you why. Because we don't always look at the ripple effect of mental illness. We need to know that people with serious mental illness have an increased risk of chronic diseases. We hardly ever associate this. You think about it. If you're stressed, and you're ill, there may be a correlation between your illness and your stress level. Please take heed of that. We need to know that at least 8.4 million Americans provide care to an adult with an emotional or mental illness. And that ripple effect means that the person who is taking care of that individual who is living with a mental illness can become stressed, can become overwhelmed, can go through depression. So we're just adding to that number as we move forward. 21% of people experiencing homelessness also have a serious mental illness. We see them every day walking our rooms, on our roads and our streets. And we need to understand that there are some people who definitely choose to become homeless. We're cognizant of that fact. But we also need to understand that there are people who are living with mental illness who are homeless, and that presents a very negative impact on us as a community. 80% of US adults with mental illness also have a substance use disorder. And that is also very detrimental because in the last week, I can tell you that 4 individuals from my own organization, members of my own organization, have family members who have died by suicide, who are living with a mental illness, who have used substance as a mask for their mental illness, and who have overdosed. So the ripple effect goes on and on. We also need to know that 1 in 8 of all persons who visit the emergency room is diagnosed with a mental illness. So our hospitals are overcrowded. I cannot tell you the impact of living with a mental illness during the pandemic and that it had on the hospitals around us. So these are reasons why we need to be able to take care of our mental health. We need to be able to recognize the symptoms. We need to be able to talk freely, openly about conditions that are affecting us because, again, I have to stress, it does not discriminate. So what does NAMI do for you? NAMI, as I said, provide educational services. We provide trainings, support groups, not only for the person who is living with mental illness, but also for their family members and their caregivers. And not only do we educate individuals, but we make them productive citizens of our community. We train them, and if they're in recovery and they're able to facilitate our groups and our programs, we invite them to go back and give to the community. We also advocate for services. We advocate for healthcare services. And we'll reach out to you, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. We reach out to you because we want you to recognize that this is really a mental health problem issue in our community. We also provide support. We acknowledge that support is one of the greatest aspects for a person who is living with a mental illness. We ask that families pay attention. We ask that families who are overwhelmed because they've been so involved with their loved ones, and they are giving up, to hold on, to reach out to NAMI because we're always there for you. Our statistics are great. We all know the ramification of living with a person with a mental illness or seeing the individuals living with mental illness. But we also know that recovery is possible. We know that with the right treatment, with the support system in place, with the ability to provide services in our community, healthcare services, and acknowledge that even children at 4 years old can be diagnosed with a mental illness, and it doesn't get better unless there's treatment and care. We need to recognize it, and we all need to just do the best we can to help. That's my spiel for today, and I'm open to any questions.
Well, first of all, thank you for being here today, but don't go away. So do you operate out of a facility or multiple facilities, and who funds your operations?
As I said, NAMI is a national organization originating in Virginia, and we have affiliates, local affiliates in pretty much every county, and state offices in every state. We're funded by our behavioral health coalition, which is our managing entity. To some extent, we also receive grants from communities. We are funded by private donations, and we have a walk. We have the biggest mental health walk in Broward County. We just had one last week because our funding is all in place to give these services back to the community at no charge.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anyone have any questions? We're good. Thank you
Thank
for
you
being
so
here
much.
today.
Thank you
Really
for your
appreciate
work. Appreciate it. And thank you 211 too.
Thank you.
Keep up the awesome work.
it. Louisa, do you want to add to this? Oh, okay.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Commission. Louisa Agathon with the Neighbor Support Division of the City Manager's Office. In Neighbor Support, we are the community connectors of the city. We are responsible for listening, supporting, and engaging with our community. And as such, we have 4 pillars under our purview. We are responsible for education, volunteerism, community engagement, and homelessness. And as homelessness continues to be a priority for the City Commission, I want to present to you an update on the strategies that we have in place and also some of the outcome metrics. All right. So our strategies include the Police Homeless Outreach Team. It also includes Community Court and the Housing Navigation Team or program. In the police department, the goal is to establishing a homeless outreach team was to build trust and install a feeling of safety when individuals experiencing homelessness interact with our officers. And as such, the police department has put together a training, a homeless awareness training, and 97% of our officers have completed that training. In addition to that, we have 2 officers who are part of the homeless outreach team, and they are responsible for providing outreach to homeless individuals, following up on inquiries that we receive here through City Hall, and also to refer those in need to community court for additional assistance.
Louisa, can you tell me a little bit about the homeless awareness training? Like, how long is that? Is that virtual? Is it instructor-led?
Yeah, so I'm going to leave that question. Let's put it to a side, and then we can bring police to
Okay,
helping
great.
me answer that question. This year, our homeless outreach team, they've provided over 4,000 contacts. These are duplicates as it requires consistency and repetition to build a relationship with our homeless individuals. And then another outcome of their engagement is that they've been able to reunify 32 individuals with their families. That means that individuals who are homeless in the city and have someone or family member or a friend that is willing to have them back and help them, that they're able to coordinate those transportations to reunite them with their families. The next strategy is our community court. On Wednesdays, City Hall Chambers transforms into a community court. And the goal is to address misdemeanor level crimes or offenses, and then also violations of municipal ordinances by providing community services in lieu of incarceration. So this year, we had over 140 hearings. We had 32 participants or NTAs that agreed to be part of the program. They have completed over 110 community service hours, and 12 have graduated as part of the program. One of the biggest takeaways for us as we are reviewing community court is that the scope of its services has really expanded to not only serve those who are court ordered, but also walk-ins. So for every one walk-in or one NTA that comes to City Hall, we are assisting 16 walk-ins. So this year alone, just from January through May, we had 220 individuals come through the door seeking help that are not court ordered, and that number doubled just from June to September. Our latest strategy is the Housing Navigation Program. So we launched this program in July in collaboration with Task Force for Ending Homelessness, the Police Department, and Neighbor Support. And the goal was to provide community outreach and provide intake assessments for individuals, and then also link them with the appropriate services to either shelter, transitional, or permanent housing. We've identified a group of 20 individuals, and we've identified this group through the homeless outreach officers and also inquiries that we receive from neighbors and businesses on areas that are highly trafficked by homeless individuals. So we identified 20. These 20 are chronically homeless, meaning that they've been homeless for over a year or for at least a year. And they're experiencing a disabling condition, meaning that they either have a physical, mental, and/or substance abuse. So with this score, we have been working continuously for the past 3 months. We touch them or connect with them about 120 times a month, just to build that relationship with them. And we're happy to report that over the 3 months, we've been successfully linked 20 or 60% of our cohort with housing services. So that means that 2 of them have gone to shelter, 2 have been referred for housing, meaning that they have a voucher, and we're helping to align them with permanent housing. We have 2 currently in permanent housing. 2 have been reunified with their families, and 4 are currently under mental or drug health treatment.
Is that, Louisa, you're saying 20 people were identified as needing housing services? Is that right?
20 is the-
60% of those 20 have been
Correct.
connected?
So 12 out of the 20.
Okay, great. And the others, how are the others?
We're still working on
Working.
them and
Great.
building that relationship
But that's
with them.
great. It's great success.
As far as next steps, I just want to highlight 3 items on this list. These address near and future things that we're going to bring before you. I do want to highlight that November is Homeless Awareness Month. So as a result of that, we are going to be bringing before you our service providers at the next commission meeting so that they're recognized through a proclamation for all the work that they complete. And then we are also working with Broward County to host the Homeless Symposium at Snyder Park on November 3rd. And we're working with Task Force to have an educational campaign before our Council of Civic Associations. The other item that I want to highlight is that the police department is expanding its homeless outreach officers, so they're going to be adding 1 more person to the team. And lastly, my intention is to bring before you in the first quarter of 2023 a strategic plan on homelessness so that we could target short and long-term goals. We always get asked the questions, how can neighbors help? So I've outlined 6 different ways that neighbors can help. We have a list of resources available on our website, fortlauderdale.gov/helpnow. I also want to encourage landlords within our city to register under Project Home Again. Project Home Again is a Broward County initiative. It's a platform for landlords to register, and just by signing up, they get a $50 registration incentive. The other item is I would encourage our neighbors to partner with local nonprofits with holidays around the corner. I know that they want to give back to the community with food and donations. So there are many great nonprofits that we work here in the city. So please reach out to them. And if you do want to have a special outdoor feeding event, there is a permit that is required for you to have an outdoor feeding. We invite our neighbors to be part of community court on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. There are some resources listed for rental assistance through the city, so consolidatedcreditsolutions.org/FTL-rent is the website to go. And if you are assisting someone who is experiencing homelessness, please reach out to the homeless helpline, which the number is also there. That's the first step in order to get someone registered as homeless, which is key in order to open those gates for the different resources that are available. And I just want to close by saying thank you to all of our service providers and partners, because without their assistance and guidance, none of this work would be possible. And I would address your questions as it relates to training if the chief can help me.
Any other questions? I personally can't emphasize enough the second recommendation on how neighbors can help, to register as a landlord. I think the most compelling challenge that we have in our city is housing, of course, for homeless people. And finding housing, when you have the resources, you have the vouchers to be able to pay for housing, yet we do not have the apartments available or the homes available, or the shelters available to accommodate the homeless population that we currently experience. And so those who are listening and those that want to participate, if you know somebody or if you yourself have apartments available, we desperately need your assistance in trying to fulfill our goal of trying to become 100% homeless, 100% dealing with our homeless population, getting people off the street into a shelter, into a roof over their heads, which is the first step in giving them the opportunity to access rehabilitative services or any other mental health or physical health needs that they may have. So thank you so much, Luis. I appreciate it.
Louisa, I just have a comment, and again, I want to thank you and everyone involved in the effort, because I really do think it's an incredible job that folks are doing. My concern is, and this is what I'm going to basically request that we are able to do, when I go on any kind of social media, and I try not to a lot, trust me, but when I also get emails, there's a disconnect in our community. I don't think our community understands this work that is happening every day. When I read the comments, you would think that we're doing absolutely nothing. And I don't think that the community understands not just the magnitude of the problem, and this is nationwide, but I think that if they just could get educated somehow, and maybe we could put our efforts towards some sort of, I don't know whether it's through the Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Associations or just, or through each of the neighborhoods, or even that might not be enough, because a lot of folks in our community don't always necessarily participate or pay attention with the council or even their neighborhood association. But we have to find a way to reach folks and educate them as to the work that goes on a daily basis, because I just think it's so important, and we need to figure out a way to bridge that gap of just what people write and people think versus what's really happening in real time. That's all.
Thank you.
I think in large measure, the comments that we get from the community stem from their encountering panhandlers. So they equate panhandlers to homeless people, which may not necessarily be the case. I mean, panhandlers could maybe living in a place, but this is how they choose to raise money to support their lifestyle. Now, as you know, and we all know, that our hands have been tied for quite a while in trying to enforce our panhandling ordinance. And I know that our esteemed city attorney is going to continue to assist us in trying to provide us the tools that we can give to the police department in order to try to enforce our panhandling ordinance, and we're getting there.
Yeah, just as an update, we had trial last week, actually, in federal court. It's a bench trial, so we don't have a decision yet. The ordinance that we did repeal, obviously, the injunction's no longer effective there because it's been repealed, but we're awaiting a decision from the judge.
But that trial still referenced our old ordinance, correct?
Correct, but the plaintiffs' counsel have taken exception to the breadth of our new ordinance, which covers more intersections. So they've brought that up as well, so the judge will rule on that as well.
Oh, okay, so we'll have to wait and see what happens.
But Mayor, in addition to just the panhandling, I think it's also just the fact that folks see a proliferation of homeless encampments pop up like all over the city. And it's just actually increasing, at least visibly, and it's more of that I think people see that almost anywhere they go, and so that's what they see. I'm not sure it's just the panhandling, but it's whether it's you see a person encamped by himself in a tent on a major thoroughfare, or you see in a parking lot, and I see this happen, and it really is happening to the extent where that's what people see, so that's the perception. So I think it's in addition to the panhandling, but I just think we need to make people aware of everything that we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Chief, did you want to add to this?
Just to address Commissioner Sorensen's question, or Vice Mayor Sorensen, the answer is both. In-service
Yep.
classroom training for the new recruits, and then online, the electronic training for the officers.
Great. And what is it? Give me a little bit of flavor for what it does. What does it talk
We
about?
have one of our instructors here.
Oh, perfect, yeah. And Chief, my question is gonna be basically is there a way we could maybe deploy some of the, even if it's a video of the training? Greg, what I'm thinking is just for the public's awareness, so that they get a flavor of what are our officers trained on? How are they taught to deal with homeless?
Absolutely. So
See what I'm getting at? To the mayor and commissioner's point about educating more.
Vice Mayor, so Stratcoms partnered with the officers that you see from the HOT team and actually did something that was very educational, and we certainly will share that more on our social media channels. We also encourage the elected officials to share it within your own
Great.
respective channels, but bringing more of that awareness helps people understand what we can do, what we can't do. And as this slide is shown, I like to ask IT to show this slide right here to the point of the mayor and Commissioner Glassman as well, that it's important for people to know that if you'd like to help, the best way to help is support these nonprofits rather than to provide money to individuals. These nonprofits are working out of their pockets sometimes, like Backpack Barber. He cuts hair for free.
Great.
That helps individuals getting the help they need in a formal way, in a way that is progressive to where they need to be for the next step.
Yep, agreed. Great.
Good afternoon, Officer Brian Blunt with the Homeless Outreach Team. Our training is twofold.
Yeah.
All new recruits go through intensive training with my partner and I, introducing them to the services that are available, some of the strategies that we use as far as crisis intervention, and teaching them how to deal with the homeless individuals, going over our policies, going over everything that we have that we can use, and then giving them that tool to go out on the road and use. And then for officers that have been here for a while, they get retrained. Some of them are aware of some of the services, or we have new services available on a regular basis. So we try to keep it updated as regularly as possible so they can have that information and they can use that when they're on the road dealing with the individuals.
It's great, great. Thank you for what y'all do, Rick. And thank you. And I guess, Greg, my next question was around that is, it sounds like we're adding another homeless outreach officer, which is great. And just want to check in to make sure we're giving that team, everything they need from a resource standpoint, manpower.
Absolutely, Commissioner. Vice Mayor, we are very thankful to the City Commission for always funding and supporting us with your vision. We take that to heart, and I greatly acknowledge the HOT team because they have a special level of care that allows us to at least help those individuals take the next step. So certainly, we will do that.
Great. And then, Luis, I had a few other questions. That's all right. So, one, I think just great success with community court. Again, community court was the first community court in the state, I think, right? That we started here, which I'm just really proud of as a commission and city staff and partnering. I mean, it's an amazing, amazing success. So I just want to celebrate that. Two, can you tell us what does it take to graduate from community court? And we have 12 graduates, I think, from community court. And what can we be doing to increase that number of graduates? Because when you look at the total number of people that are engaged through community court, that graduate, there's an opportunity, right?
Right. So there is opportunity. Let me step back. An NTAs require notice to appear. An individual that has a notice to appear requires that they seek some type of treatment depending on their needs. So if they have to go to mental health treatment, detox, they'll go through that process. In that, the judge, based on her purview, she decides as to whether they need to do 10 hours, 5 hours, or write a letter. So it really depends on the judge's discretion as to whether or not what they have to do in order to graduate. For us, I think it requires a little bit of more case management from the community court perspective, and that's something that we're working on so that we can continue to follow up with the different individuals and not lose track of the different services that they're provided. So that's something that we're working on.
Okay, great. Phenomenal, and that case management is just so critical. So, and I know you live this every day. So, awesome. Okay, great. And what was November 3rd? You mentioned something, an event at Snyder Park. Is that what you?
Yeah, November 3rd is the homeless symposium that we are doing in collaboration with Broward County. So it's an event where we are bringing on homeless individuals and asking them what, as a county, we can do better to assist them and provide the services that they need. I also want to just highlight that with us, we have Broward County representatives, and then we also have task force with us here representing and supporting the city in these different efforts.
Oh, great. Then we got task force. Yeah,
Yep.
good to see you in Broward County. Where's Broward County? You're there. Thank you. Appreciate it, y'all. Thank you for the team effort. This is awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Louisa. Greg, question, and maybe until Greg gets back. And maybe, Greg, we're not going to be able to be as effective. Oh, thank you. Great. Appreciate it. Maybe we're not as effective to be able to address this until, as Alan mentioned, the case is resolved. But several of our intersections in our city, we have just, at times, folks impeding traffic in the right-of-way, for a variety of reasons, and we don't know all the reasons. But so, when we think of, I just wrote down a couple, when we think of Oakland Park and Federal, when we think of 17th and Federal, when we think of Broward and Andrews, and I'm sure there are others, but just some of these intersections, there's just real opportunity to help make sure people are safe. I'm always just concerned about people getting hit, and so I'm just thinking from a traffic enforcement perspective, at some point, could we possibly deploy a little bit more resources to some of these intense intersections where we see folks getting in the right of way and potentially hurting themselves or others?
That's been the goal.
Partly
right?
why, that's always been our goal. Safety is always the goal.
Exactly.
And that's been the driving force behind the previous ordinances we have in place that are being challenged and the most recent iterations that we promulgated. We did promulgate a new one with regards to being in the right of way. Now, no one can ever impede traffic. That's a given.
Yep.
But we get in murky areas depending on where they are, where they're standing, and what they're doing. So we'll be in a much better place once the court rules because we'll have a little bit more clarity. Right now, again, every single NTA or every single notice we provide or try any enforcement, we're being watched and challenged. So hopefully the court will rule soon, and that'll give us.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
But Vice Mayor, that's been the whole goal to begin with. I mean, two
I know.
people in the last few years have been killed on Sunrise Boulevard because they've been, soliciting money, and I know a lot of close calls that have occurred right by Target, also by the Gateway area. They're just walking in the middle of the street.
Yep.
There's one guy in a wheelchair by the Cumberland Farms that just goes in and out of traffic, trying to collect money, and someone is going to just barrel right into him. And
Right.
and we have ordinances trying to protect them, and our hands are tied because a federal judge down the street here doesn't think we have the right to tell people like that to get out of the middle of the street. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous. So I'm sorry if I'm prejudicing our case, but I know. But it's really ridiculous. So anyway.
Yeah. Thanks. All right. Keep working. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. On to business 5, Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, so Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioner, we're very proud for this milestone for the city. We've been able to deliver a new ERP system, which we have Mr. Glenn Marcos, our Chief Procurement Officer. He will lead the discussion, and we'll talk about the benefits that are available for the public, businesses, and staff.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Glenn Marcos, Chief Procurement Officer. The administration want to provide this opportunity for for all of you to see a brief presentation of a monumental milestone, the implementation of an enterprise resource planning system and what is next. Co-presenting with me today will be Ms. Linda Short, Deputy Finance Director, and Ms. Tamika McKay, Chief Information Officer. The city implemented an ERP system to eliminate outdated, archaic, and disparate systems. We have finally entered the 21st century with the latest technology. Out with the old and in with the new, we have eliminated disparate systems and implemented Infor, a fully integrated financial and procurement suite. In doing so, we have addressed such issues as lack of data and inconsistent data, making it difficult at times to make informed decisions by staff. These were the limitations of a 52-year-old system. The ERP system has the necessary business intelligence and analytical tools for staff to make better, precise, informed decisions based on more comprehensive data. This can be quickly accessed and should result in better customer service within the organization and to our neighbors. Infor is one of the enterprise application software leaders in the world. The Infor system automates and integrates critical turnkey procurement, financial, human resources, business processes. From procure to pay or to hire to retire, the system allows city staff to manage suppliers and its procurements with full transparency. The suppliers, our neighbors, or anyone else, as a matter of fact, can visit procurement's webpage and access our gateway for business opportunities. Suppliers will be able to register, submit offers electronically, and view contracts. Seamlessly, we will be able to share and transmit data quicker to our suppliers, financial partners, and employees. So what goes into a digital system business transformation? A lot of work. Hours of looking over data and metadata. And then what do we do with that data? Well, we cleaned it up. We corrected corrupt, inaccurate, incomplete, duplicate data. We then migrated and converted the data into a format required by the Infor system. We then validated the data to ensure accuracy. The data is ready to be reported on and to be passed to other third-party systems. We have also set up the electronic workflow in the system based on a more streamlined process to send content to be reviewed and approved by decision makers. In brief, the implementation scope entailed our defined procurement and financial business requirements and incorporated best practices either already embedded in the software system or redefining our own processes. Only employees who have a specific purpose or a role adding value to the process have access to perform their duties. The system, the data, and security have gone through extensive testing to ensure the information and system controls are correct. For the phase 1 implementation, we implemented Infor software version 11, and the business process that's been impacted, the first one to mention is source to settle, the modules, supplier registration, strategic sourcing, supplier portal, requisition self-service, purchasing, matching, and contract management. On the finance side, I'll let Linda mention those modules. We also implemented inventory control. That's very important. As you can see, that inventory control entails mobile, handheld, smart devices, meaning that, say, for example, if you have somebody from Public Works who's out in the field and they need to repair or replace a part, they can simply access their devices, order their parts, it gets delivered on the same day, and off we go. Linda?
Thanks, Glenn. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to briefly highlight, next slide, please. I'm going to briefly highlight some of the improvements that were not available before that are available to us now. When you look at the next slide, please. Sorry, I wish I had a clicker.
I got it.
Is that the clicker? I'm sorry, I didn't know. All right, good. I'm sorry. I control that. Hey. All right, so, oops, gone too far. All right, so some of the other processes that have been improved on is our record to report. So one of the biggest things we changed is our chart of accounts. In a 52-year-old system, we did not have the proper chart of accounts. The state of Florida has a uniformed accounting system that all governments in the state of Florida are supposed to follow. With our antiquated systems, we weren't really able to utilize it to get the information. It was a lot of manual processing. So the business processes we've included a robust project management suite. And biggest part of that for me is, okay, today I saw the headlines today, we're able to do more than just capital project reporting. We can report on activities, special events, and know what the true cost of that event cost, whereas before we weren't able to do that. Now we can capture salaries for the project. We can see how much it costs to put on the 4th of July, not just for the cost that Parks and Rec has, but then all the staffing that goes into it. We can really capture and be very robust in the reporting that we have to give us real-time information. You know, the biggest things we had, everything was always a month behind or sometimes a quarter behind. Now we have real-time information. We have daily bank statements. We have daily P-card charges. Really help us to really be able to forecast and manage our financials effectively. So part of the modules that the city gets to do, you know, really helps us to do better when it comes to our financial decisions. All right, so training. When it comes to the training, of course, Infor provided us training. Our module that we decided to go to is a train-the-trainer program. We have done 19 training courses with Infor. We've done 48 days of training, which is a ton of training, and we're constantly improving and training employees as we go along. Some of the key benefits to the ERP system and the return on our investment. You know, some of the things that we talked about already, which is a chart of accounts, that's out there now. We're in compliance with the state. Okay, we have one financial system of record. Before, the systems were antiquated, they weren't talking to each other. Now we have one place to get everything we need. You know, this now includes like dashboards and business intelligence. You can do very robust reporting in there and get things right in front of you every day. We're gonna have faster reporting. You know, our CAFR wasn't issued until June of this year. This year, you know, going forward, we expect to improve on the processing time and get things out quicker. Internal controls. With our old systems, there was not a lot of internal controls built in. Now we have better internal controls. We partnered with other departments such as the city attorney's office, city's auditor's office, I apologize, who helped to take a look to make sure we were building the system in a sound and effective way. I think one of the biggest impacts to businesses is the one-stop shop for the suppliers. Businesses now have one place to go. They can enter their invoice and submit it automatically instead of the old process. They can see their payments. They can see their POs all in one spot. So, you know, right now people have to call several different places to find out where their invoice is in the process. They can see everything themselves. They can apply to be a supplier with the city. They will get notifications of the different bids that we have out there and real-time track where their payment is or what's going on with their account on a daily basis. So that's one of the biggest things for businesses. And, you know,
So
like,
when my contractor says he submitted an application for a permit and he doesn't know where it is in the process,
he can go see it. If he submits it online through the supplier portal, he can track it himself.
you hear that, people?
Yes, that's a huge enhancement. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Tamika.
Good afternoon, Tamika McKay, IT Director. One of the major benefits of the ERP implementation is technology infrastructure, or the lack thereof in the city's case. Let me explain. Technology infrastructure consists of storage, compute, and network. So what does that mean? Well, think of it as the plumbing where the water flows through. Or another analogy would be the tracks or the railing system that the train cars ride with the precious cargo, which in our case is our information. Previously, the city's technology infrastructure consisted of physical hardware located in data centers around the city requiring power, cooling, fire suppression, repair, maintenance, and constant support. It also meant that if we experienced a hardware failure, a loss of power, or in the event of a disaster, critical business functions would come to an immediate halt. Also requiring staff to spend time ordering parts, to rebuild, recover, restore, to bring systems back online, which at times could take days, could take weeks, and in some cases, months. Our ERP system is cloud-based, and it provides us with a service level commitment of 99.7% uptime or high availability. It also includes automatic backups for disaster recovery with a 1-hour recovery time. That's right, that means if something were to happen, we could be back online within 1 hour. Lastly, my favorite, cybersecurity enhancements. We're running our ERP system on one of the world's leading cloud vendor providers with automatic threat protection, monitoring, and cybersecurity management. So what does this mean for me as an employee or as a business or as a neighbor? It means that once the ERP system is fully implemented, as long as we have available human resources and internet access, and that can be from anywhere, from home, from an emergency operations center, from a temporary command post setup, in the event of a disaster, our critical business operations will remain resilient. And that's a big win for us. With that, I'll return it back to Linda to talk about what's next.
So before we go to what's next, I want to highlight something very important Tamika just said. And I think majority of the commissioners were here when our software system went down in 2019. And for 6 weeks, we couldn't cut a check because the computer, we couldn't find the parts to replace it. So for us to be at the point in time that we are right now, the digital transformation, converting to the system where the downtime is only an hour is tremendous when it comes to the city and being able to get processing done. So what's next? Well, first of all, we've launched and gone live. Yay. It was a lot of work. I have a lot of the team members here in the audience to recognize them for it. We've already registered over 500 suppliers. We have over 300 contracts that have been loaded in the system. We have about 300 requisitions that are entered, 160 POs created in the past 2 weeks. 500 payments have been cut with over $3 million worth of payments gone out the door in just a week and a half, 2 weeks. So that's what's happened since we've gone live. What's next? ERP is like any other software system. We have to go through a stabilization period. We're still tweaking, making advancements, but we expect that stabilization period to last about a year, and after that, we're going to go to systems optimization. At the time that we implemented the system, we were implementing the system for the things that we currently do. There's a lot more things that it can do, and so we're going to go into the next phase of it, which is to optimize, increase, provide enhancement, upgrades, and do more with the system than what we currently do. And then also, we've already started our phase 2 go live, which is the global HR. So we're replacing our current payroll and HR system. We're going to be implementing payroll, of course, employee and manager self-service. So employees will have a platform they can go in to put different information in. We're going to be doing employee relations, talent management, and other suites within the global HR. And like I said, that's already started, and the anticipated go-live for that is July of 2023. All right, that's it for our presentation, but before I leave, I just want to, if I can ask the staff who is here from finance who supported this, if you guys can stand up for me so we can recognize some of the team that helped to get this done. That's it. Me and Glenn are here for questions if you have any.
And you won't have to do it for another 59 years. Just think of that. Congratulations. Congratulations. Excellent, thank you.
It's great, Linda. I just thank you. I think it's great for transparency and efficiency, so thank you. Thank you all for your work.
Questions?
All right, great, thank you again. We appreciate it. Anything to make our city work more efficiently. Next on to business 6, federal transportation funding opportunities. When the city, as the city manager approaches the podium, I just want to say that this visit, this month or so ago, when we went to Washington with the Washington Summit and the Chamber, I have to say is probably one of the most successful trips that we've taken in terms of being able to secure information about potential programs which the city manager is about to talk about.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioner. Absolutely. So recently, as the mayor alluded to, staff participated in a Washington Summit. It's very important that that we attended because the summit provided us with an opportunity to learn about federal funding programs that may support the vision of the commission with respect to smart growth and providing mobility and transportation capabilities beyond what we know and see today. So right now, we're going to discuss what are some of those findings from our visit. And it was a jam-packed 3 days. And I didn't know, Mr. Mayor, I didn't know you had so much energy and you're so agile. We were, and probably within a 4-span period, in more than 5 places, and shaking hands and also dialoguing with people that actually approve some of these grants. So we certainly appreciate the ability to participate in such trip. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the overall picture, what the federal funding process looks like. So realizing that we have a need to provide better transportation, better abilities for moving mass transit and also being more eco-friendly with our energy efficiencies as well. We want to give an overview of how we can reach some of the monumental projects, the mega projects, if you will, that are starting to take place in our regions. And specifically, we can look at, for instance, how can we fund the crossing of the New River? How can we fund, for example, the P3 that's being considered right now, the tunnel to transport mass transit between downtown and the beach? And how can we expand further on systems that connect us together? So it all starts with a plan. We're going to talk about 2 programs, such as the Reconnecting Communities and Innovative Financing. And what they do is they help us prepare a NEPA study. I've asked Ms. Daphne Sainville, our Government Affairs and Economic Development Manager, to talk a little bit about what that means. It also helps us fund public outreach. We want to be inclusive and we want to be participatory of the communities that are being impacted or that are being supported. And also we want to look at economic impact studies. Thereafter, we reach into a phase that helps us determine the best local preferred alternative. That's what LPA stands for. We learned a lot of acronyms while we were on a trip. Certainly LPA is one of those, and certainly the LPA is something that together the county, the city, and other stakeholders like Brightline FEC will need to agree on. And for that LPA, we need to also understand the O&M, the ride share, and also high-level construction plans. So this requires a lot of effort. Effort requires funding, and that's what we're determined to achieve. And then we also need to determine who will be the lead applicant for these federal funding opportunities. And once we apply for the funding, we can certainly look at getting funding for design, which will help us redefine the cost estimates and also the plans that are needed for being considered for the construction or execution of the project plans. And then once that takes place, we can do the federal loan applications, we can do construction bids, and also start the permitting. With that said, I want to dive into what are some of those programs, and for that, I've asked, again, Ms. Daphne Sainville to assist in describing what those programs are. So, Ms.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Daphne Sainville, Government Affairs and Economic Development Manager. Some of the programs, as the City Manager has explained, are the Reconnecting Communities Grant and the Innovative Financing Grant. That is currently not available, but we're waiting for the Notice of Funding Opportunity, the NOFO, to become available to see if we're eligible to apply. So for Reconnecting Communities, the main purpose of it is to reconnect communities, address infrastructure mobility, so historical wrongs to make them right, equity issues related to transportation, and the economic development access. So that's what's important in trying to utilize this planning grant for reconnecting communities to figure out the economic impact. We submitted the application on October 13th successfully. So it's for $1 million with a 20% match. To either hire a consultant to conduct the economic impact statement, NEPA studies, which are the environmental impact studies, in conjunction with working with TAM and other opportunities. Innovative financing, which is also called asset concession. It's to facilitate access to expert services and provide grants to enhance the technical capacity of eligible entities. So essentially, in a nutshell, it's a technical assistance grant. And the funds will be awarded to build the organizational capacity of the public entity so we can develop, review, and enter into asset concessions, including hiring of staff, another consultant, and there's no equity component needed for innovative financing. It also evaluates the P3 viability. There's 20 million per year available for 5 years. And as I said before, the NOFO is not available yet, but once it comes out, we will definitely figure out what projects are with the tunnel, as well as other transportation projects that are eligible for funding there. Outside of grants, available loans that are available are the RIF, which is the Railroad Rehabilitation and Improvement Financing Loan. There's $35 billion available. Generally, there is a 35-year repayment period. However, according to the Build America Bureau, which is a subset of the Department of Transportation, they're technically our cheerleaders in all of this and assisting us with grant writing. They have recently increased the repayment period to 75 years for railroad infrastructure, new intermodal rail facilities, and to finance transit-oriented development. We can apply at any time when we're ready. And part of that process, what's very unique about the RIF is that transit-oriented development. That means we can collaborate with Brightline and other private entities to build and construct a building within 1 mile from that railroad, which could be City Hall.
So to elaborate upon that, and this is something to which Greg alluded to earlier, as long as it's within 1 mile of a transportation hub, and in this case, it would be the Brightline station, any kind of development, it doesn't even have to be transportation related, any kind of development that's a public works project can be funded under this program. And and we didn't even raise this point, but they said, and we can even build you a new city hall. And I said, oh, really? I said, guess what? We want to build a new city hall. And that conversation was carried forth after that comment was made. And so should the commission decide to move forward in redoing the city hall, we have this program available with a 75 repayment period and possible forgiveness of part of the loan. At very, very fair interest rates, well below market, that would permit us as a city to be able to really move forward in a very responsible way to try to get this building built. So this was a very exciting part of that meeting that we had while we were up in Washington. Thank you.
Correct.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Daphne.
Oh, no, it's okay. Another thing that they had discussed that I failed to mention is that you can apply for a certain amount with that loan, and the only part of repayment is what you utilize. So it's based on the drawdown amount. And it's the interest rate is contingency upon the Treasury's interest rate, and it's a flat rate upon the drawdown. So with all that said, Our next steps, I don't know, do you want to?
Please close.
Okay. All right, is that I will work and collaborate with our federal lobbyists in identifying and putting together grant applications for those eligible grants when the NOFOs come out and when we're ready to conduct construction or we're nearing that part to apply for loans. Continue working with the county on the new river crossing, so to continue to work and reach a consensus. That's part of the Reconnecting Communities Planning Grant objective, is to reach a consensus that the tunnel is the best option for the LPA, and analyze existing studies to further refine tunnel estimates. We know that the price has been going down as each estimate comes through, and to continue working with the county again on the economic impact study for the tunnel option. I had spoken to the South Florida Planning Regional Council. In order to conduct the economic impact study, it's best that the county also come in with us because to bear 50% of the cost, because there is a cost match to that. So I plan on working with our team to make sure that, you know, we come to a successful outcome, reach consensus, and continue to collaborate and work together.
And just wanted to highlight, I think it was on the slide, but we are on a path to fulfill this strategy of improving the transportation systems and also looking at transit-oriented development. We submitted on time on October 13th, Reconnecting Communities, and that was a monumental effort from staff because they work arduously on weekends to put everything together so that we can meet a tight deadline in 3 weeks from the time that we visited Washington. So kudos to the staff, and we appreciate also Mayor and Commission the opportunity to support these programs as well. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions? So what would this money be used for, reconnecting communities? Because I know we're partnering with Oakland Park and Wilton Manors on this. So what exactly would the money be used for?
So
This be to
you wanna
investigate
come-
feasibility
yeah.
of the New River Crossing? Is it about, tell us what it's about.
So Reconnecting Communities, there were 2 applications that were submitted. So one is the collaboration that we've done with Wilton Manors and Oakland Park, and I believe Ben Rogers would have more information about that one. I was not involved, just getting the letters of support. And the one that we did work on with the time frame would be to hire a consultant that would conduct additional studies. So the economic impact study, possibly the environmental impact study that's not related to construction, but more to the impact that it has on the community in order to address equity issues related to transportation.
This is regarding the tunnel?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, because those studies haven't been done yet.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much. Really appreciate it, and thanks for the good work you're doing. Business 7, the Tunnel Top Park discussion. Let me begin, and then I'll ask the city manager to help me on this. So as we've brought to the attention of the commission in previous meetings, an individual passed away, Mr. Laird, wanted to donate to the city $5 million for the purpose of naming a park after him. And as it would happen, you know, $5 million doesn't go as far as it used to, and some of the opportunities for acquiring land in that with that amount of money, really, I didn't think would be a disservice to Mr. Laird, because it would probably be a small park tucked away in a neighborhood, and not really very visible, and I don't think it's consistent with the type of generosity that he's with this gift that he's making to the city. So at that point, I spoke with the trustee, Mr. Jeff Selzer, and we had been discussing for some time now about repurposing that money, and instead of using it to buy land, but to buy artwork. And I think I brought this to the attention of the commission, and I've since received the letter making a request to the city, and you see it on the screen now, and I also asked the clerk to email it to each of you. a suggestion of starting to acquire art pieces that we could use to put on the Tunnel Top Park area that we're redeveloping. The reason why I thought it'd be great is because $5 million can buy some really great art. And it would be a destination for people coming to our community to see a magnificent art space open to the public with some really identifiable pieces of art. Not so much what you're seeing there, although I do love you, but it's there are some other pieces. Can you flip the slide? I think there are some other pieces. No, go back in the other direction. Is there, I don't know what you have here. What is this? Is this the letter? And then there are attachments to the letter? Can you let's keep going because I want to show you not those. Those are just, keep going. Well, there are some other attachments to the letter which you don't have here. Okay. But the point is, we have been consulting with a local art consultant who Bonnie Barnett, who happens to be here in our audience today, who's here to answer any questions. But there have been some significant opportunities here to acquire art and to place them on the Tunnel Top area. But with that, we would need to recognize him in some way. The suggestion is, and let me see what the letter actually, well, can you go back to the letter, David? Okay, but can you just go back to the letter for a second? Right, okay, right there. Can you enlarge that? So, the art park, let me see here. I'm looking for his entire name. Why don't I see it in the letter? There's a second letter. Okay.
Mayor, while that's coming, I'm just reading through all this now.
Oh, right. You know what, I have that. Let me have that. Let me, just a second, Vice Mayor, hold on a second. Okay, so it's James Winder Laird who's the donor, and through his trust, he was donating $5 million. This is based on a letter that you should now have received dated October 14th. Through Ms. Barnett's participation, there are opportunities to secure significant art pieces that we could decorate or install on the tunnel top. Right now, the tunnel top really has no significant features other than a small fountain, some trees, and some shaded areas that are going to be artificial structures. We thought it would be an opportunity for the city to create a destination, and as part of that, to make that destination a focus of the city of Fort Lauderdale with a selection of art pieces that would be unique and singular to Fort Lauderdale. Attached to the letter of October 14th, for example, is the giant shell. Do you see that? would be that, for example, has been offered for $650,000. It's quite a large piece. It's intended for outdoor use and would be having a shell in a seaside community. Certainly, there's a connection, and this would just be part of a grouping of maybe as many as 6 pieces that we could buy and install in the park area. So I want to bring it to everyone's attention. The reason why I asked the city manager to put it on the agenda this afternoon was because the city has to authorize the continual effort to move forward with this project and also agree to some kind of naming opportunity for Mr. Laird, who's donating the $5 million worth of art. The suggestion is to call it the James Winder Laird Art Park at Tunnel Top, so that there's some identification of both Mr. Laird and the fact that we've always kind of coined it as the Tunnel Top Park. So I bring it to the attention of the commission for feedback and any suggestions you might have. Vice Mayor, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. And thanks, Bonnie, for your work on this as well. So I think great possibility to explore who is, and I'm just not seeing it in the letter, but who is James Winder Laird and what's his connection to Fort Lauderdale?
He was a Fort Lauderdale resident and for many, many years. And I remember when he was alive, he came to visit me and wanted to make a donation to the city to do something very similar to this. And we met with him and we didn't hear from him for a while, and then we found out he had passed away. And I thought I would resume the conversation, in this case with his trustee, to see, and he was only going to give $1 million back then, and now we see it as much as $5 million. And so as a former resident of the city, someone who lived in the city and passed away in our city, his connection is that this was his home that he made, and wanted to show his appreciation for the kind of life experience that he had while he was living here.
Well, wonderful. Yeah, I mean, and so to your point, I think we've made, with FDOT, just phenomenal progress on the Tunnel Top Park and ahead of schedule, and so it's excellent. And as we went through the numbers and so forth, we, as you mentioned, just limited funding for arts, so for arts there. So I think, exploring something like this makes a lot of sense. Mayor, and I think absolutely worthwhile to explore, and I just suggest that as we continue this discussion, just making sure we're including, Las Olas Association, Riverwalk, just Downtown Civic Association, all those key stakeholders to kind of talk about this, not only the naming, but also the art selection. So I don't know, I think we just want to make that a collaborative process for at least input and feedback.
Well, I have to be honest with you. The naming part, obviously, comes with the gift. So if we don't do the naming part, we're not going to get the gift. But the art selection, I caution us on that. Everybody has different tastes in art. That's the problem. A lot of people think something is gorgeous and timeless, and other people think it's, not suitable to their tastes. That's always a problem in trying to get consensus on what is good art. So that's the only thing I want to be careful about. I think it probably behooves us to bring it to the attention of the Downtown Civic Association, and maybe the next meeting I might participate in their next meeting and go over this with them.
Yep, I think that'd be good.
Yeah, and get their feedback. But at some point, I'd like to know that the commission would recommend moving forward in this regard, and I can bring that recommendation to the Downtown Civic Association so they can respond to it as well.
Yep.
Is that
That
something
makes sense.
is that something we can agree on?
Yeah, I think it sounds terrific. Now, I just wanted to mention, I was just reading the backup, and I was reading Jeff Sells' letter to you, Mayor. He does say time is of the essence. So what kind of timeline are we looking at? I mean, what does that mean, time is of the essence?
Well, that's a question for Ms. Barnett. You want to come up to the podium?
And I guess that's for the prices that have been negotiated for the pieces?
Right.
I think Jeff maybe left out a few zeros on his total. I think it adds up to more than $1,040 for the pieces.
Hi, my name is Bonnie Barnett, and I've lived in Fort Lauderdale since whatever.
For a while.
1973. Actually, I've been a fine art consultant for about 40 years. When you buy art or look at art, this piece of art is coming from Christie's private sales, which means it just came available. And what happens in the art world, because I'm totally immersed in it, is that when you see a piece of art and you don't make a decision, it's gone. It's not like a dress or a suit hanging on a rack where you can put it away for a couple weeks or a deposit. It doesn't work that way. So we were lucky enough to secure Mark Quinn's shell. It's called The Broken Sublime, The Hunger. Actually, his last piece at auction sold for, I think, $1.4 million. We were very lucky because the artist heard it was going into a public park in Fort Lauderdale, and he was very excited. He lives in England, and he reduced the price, and he also reduced the shipping, which was very expensive, in half. So it's not like you have, or we have, a week or a month to decide. We were able to secure this about a week and a half ago, and we were very lucky. So the piece is actually on the hold for maybe another 24, 48 hours, and that's it.
So let's take this in stages. So the commission, the members of the commission that are sitting here today have there seems to be a consensus to coming up with an agreement where the city would agree to the purchase of art and the naming of and giving a naming opportunity to the James Winder Laird Art Park at Tunnel Top. I think we've just agreed, the commission has agreed on that. So if we can move forward with that, and now the question is, what art would be placed there? I know what you're saying, Bonnie, but I have to also respect what the vice mayor is saying in terms of neighborhood input.
Okay, so
Some of our
also-
neighbors get a little, rightfully so, feeling they need to be part of the process, especially since this is within their neighborhood purview. When is the next, David, when is the next meeting of the Downtown Civic Association? I know. Can you look that up?
Mayor, are we also going to discuss the other piece that's mentioned here, the FTL, hashtag FTL, which it looks like there's two
That would be a
pieces.
commission piece.
Okay.
And if you ask me, that would probably be the most photographed piece of art,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's very kitschy, and it can be done in a way that,
Also, Mayor, inside the shell, it's a reflective area. So as the sun moves around and the clouds, it's reflective off the inner part of the shell, which is so beautiful.
it's reflective, right?
Yes, so it reminds you of the piece in Chicago, that beautiful piece that sits in the middle of Chicago,
The bean,
the beam. But we can't afford the beam because it's about $20 million.
we can afford the shell.
We can afford the shell.
Shell of the bean.
The shell of the beam. And I would like to remind the vice mayor, or commissioner, pardon me, that I've been chair of public art on and off for 10 years in Broward County. And actually, we have commissioned many artists, or we buy art. So at that time, we purchase it knowing that we have that ability because we have the education and foresight. So, and I was also up at the state level. And I was sent down to a university at one time because we put a John Henry piece, and the university thought it looked like a French fry. So my point is that contemporary art, everybody sees it and they have an opinion. And we chose this piece because we thought the city of Fort Lauderdale would be so thrilled to have something recognizable. And Mark Quinn is one of the most famous artists. You can look him up. And as I said, his last piece at auction went for $1.4 million.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not, I'll wait till the mayor.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No problem. So Absolutely. I'm just not comfortable committing to naming a park without public input. I don't even think we can do that at a commission meeting. So
We
that's
can't,
my
no.
concern, Mayor, is I just want some public input around naming Tumbletop Park. I've been approached with various people who want namings there. So I think we just got to have a little bit of public input and discussion before we commit, is my thinking.
And also, I didn't mean to interrupt you, the background of this gentleman is he's a DuPont, but he's a direct descendant. And he moved down here very early because he loved living in the city. So it was his honor and privilege to give us $5 million.
Yeah. No, I think it's
Just
it's
phenomenal
wonderful.
because we don't have that kind of money to spend on public art.
Sure. But can you understand the need to, before we commit to it, to have a little bit of public,
Yeah,
input?
I'm just
Yeah.
giving you the direction of this gentleman.
Yeah.
So
No,
maybe the city
absolutely. Sounds
attorney can
great.
also bring some clarity here.
Yeah, sure.
Because we're obviously talking about a few things here. We're talking about accepting $5 million. We're talking about naming of a public space, and then we're talking about the purchase of maybe two pieces. So how many things how does all that play out, and in what order, and how does it follow a process?
Well, the order I can leave to staff, but you'd have to formally approve that you can't vote and actually commit funds at this particular meeting. It's conference. So you can give staff direction to proceed in such a fashion, but ultimately those decisions, whether it be the naming, the expenditure, we have to look into as to whether it meets procurement, and then that would have to come back to you formally at a night meeting.
So can we agree, well, first of all, have we figured out when the next Downtown Civic Association meeting is? The first Monday of each month?
Soon.
So when's the next Monday?
November 7.
The 7th of November?
Yep.
So, and then the next meeting is the 8th for the city commission?
Yes.
No.
The
it's the
15th,
first.
we would meet the 1st and the 15th.
What do you mean the first?
We meet November 1.
Oh, we do meet.
That's our
November
next
1.
meeting.
Okay.
And then we meet the 15th of November.
15th. Well, if we could put it on the agenda, we're going to have a new commission on the 15th. So,
Mayor, an alternative is you could reach out to Melinda. I'm happy to help her do it. And she could share this electronically, with the Downtown Civic Association.
why don't you do
So you could
that?
start that conversation internally,
Why don't you do that?
and
That would be
happy to
great.
do it.
And then we can, I guess the best thing we can do at this point is just put it back on the agenda for the next meeting in 2 weeks, or when is the next meeting?
November 1st.
November 1.
You could put it on the 1st, and you could, I could reach out to downtown and say, here's the information, here's what we're exploring. Feedback, and please consider and give us your comments. And then additionally, please come to the November 1st meeting for guidance and feedback.
Okay. Well, I guess that's the best we can do right now.
But would that be a conference? Because remember, and also Bonnie, because we can only take action in the evening when we actually vote. So would this be something that would be coming to the conference for discussion and then as a walk-on in the evening, or is it not just necessarily a walk-on, but also scheduled as an evening for a vote?
Whether there's a conference site, that's up to you all, but ultimately, if a decision's made, it would have to be at the nighttime meeting.
Right. No, I understand.
We can certainly have a conference item to allow the public to share their thoughts, ideas, and feedback on this. And then in the evening, we could do, an item can be presented for vote.
Why don't we do it that way?
Yes.
That's a good idea. In
And,
the meantime,
Mayor,
Vice
I was
Mayor-
also informed that perhaps the whole park wouldn't be named, but a certain plaque on the park would have his name
Yeah,
on it.
it doesn't have to be the whole park.
Right,
It could
just
just
a
be a
small
section of the
part.
park.
Part of the park. But the interesting thing is, he's giving you, the city, the money to buy impressive art, as is in our county to the south and our county to the north. We have nothing here like this. And so people would come from Art Basel to look at our pieces in the park. I
Well,
think
it
that's
definitely
impressive.
would be a giant leap forward in trying to create art in public places, something we've been discussing for many years. And here we have an opportunity to jumpstart that effort with a significant donation. Josh, do you want to chime in on this at all? Our impresario.
Good afternoon, Commission. Joshua Carden, your Cultural Affairs Officer. Yeah, I'm very excited to see these projects come before you. I think both of them are really special. Mark Quinn, of course, is a hugely recognized artist that would bring national, worldwide attention to the city of Fort Lauderdale's Art in Public Places program. R&R Studios is also super well respected in South Florida. They've completed many projects down in Miami. I've known them for years as well. They're quality artists, both of them, and one would be a draw for the art crowd, and one would be a huge opportunity to create a place-making project for the city of Fort Lauderdale. So I would be very proud to have both of these in our collection.
Josh, when's the next meeting of the Public Art Advisory Board?
It will be the second Tuesday in November, I believe.
Because I'm just wondering that what their role would be. We do have a Public Art Advisory Board. I think they should at least have a review and comment of it. What do you think?
Well, sometimes I'm concerned about everyone's different opinions of what is art.
Yeah.
And this is a very unique opportunity. It'd be different if
Yes.
we were going out and commissioning art, or if we, I don't know whether whether that committee is going to be able to agree on what pieces to buy, because I think that based on information that I've received, when it was first suggested to bring it to that committee, there were so many different opinions of what is good and what is not good in terms of art that I thought we would never get anywhere. I'm just concerned about that, because everyone on that board has, they're important people, they're important members of our community. But I can tell you right now, just of the three of us sitting on this commission, we probably all three have different ideas as to what is what we feel is appropriate for our city and what is not. So, I don't want to take it away from people, but I do think that we need to somehow narrow the focus of decision making in order to be able to move this thing forward. And the offer on the table is, they would like to donate the $5 million for artwork if in some way we can recognize Mr. Laird. And like Bonnie said, it's not for the whole space, it's not for the whole park, it's just for a recognition that the art pieces that are going to be installed there would be in recognition of Mr. Laird, and that area would be his naming opportunity.
Sure. No, it makes sense. I just was wondering what role our advisory board would have, or even if they would get a just chance to see it. I mean, I wouldn't want them to all of a sudden just say to us, well, we never even heard about this.
Yeah.
I mean, I want them just to be a little bit informed.
And I have dealt with donations like this in the past, and as long as it's specified in the donation as such, typically the committee or board would be very happy to entertain it, especially if there is additional funds to maintain the piece and install the piece as well. I think they would be happy to have artwork go into that park.
Right. And would the board actually get involved in it? Because obviously, first of all, Bonnie, thank you. This is tremendously exciting. I think it would be just amazing for the city to have these kinds of pieces. But then I want to also make sure that we are able to maintain them and we know what we're doing, and just not purchase them and have them, but it's an ongoing situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to add to that. I'm so wonderful to meet a cultural affairs person for the city. I'm thrilled to have you. I've heard so much about you. Being on the Arts Council in the county, we have people that would help supervise this because we have thousands of pieces in the public art of Broward County and some of them in the city. I have done most of the art in the terminal and also at the airport. So we do have the ability to have these people work on it. Having said that, I sat on your board, and some of the members of your board wanted a burrito. Is that how you say his name? Burrito.
Some of the members on the board wanted to what?
They accepted a burrito. What is his first name? Romero Brito, which is very nice, but it's not the kind of, in my opinion, and I'm sure with this fabulous gentleman standing next to me, it's not the quality of art that you want in a park. So
Well,
that
we
was-
have a burrito now anyway in Hardy Park.
I'm sure you do.
That's what she's mentioning. Yes.
Right.
We have that. We were at the event, remember?
Okay, so one idea, Greg, is a possibility is I'll send all this backup material and great info to Melinda Downtown Civic Association. I think additionally, maybe, Greg, if you could send it to the entire Public Arts Placement Board as just, this is something the commission is considering. Possibly, we're going to bring this up for discussion at the next city commission meeting. Feel free to contact your city commissioner or mayor, so forth. And then, Mayor and Commissioner Glassman, maybe additionally, we also send it to the Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Associations, just so they're aware, they've got this information, they won't feel like we're, not including them.
That's fine.
And they can disseminate it.
For informational purposes.
For informational purposes and so forth.
That's fine. But I would like it on the agenda, the next meeting agenda.
Yeah, Greg, does that
Yes.
make sense and fair?
We could
Okay.
follow up. Yes, absolutely.
Great. So we've got this fast track, Bonnie, for 2 weeks to bring it back make a decision. So that's all right.
And Commission, if it's your will, I'll also call an earlier meeting of the Art and Public Places Committee as well. So
Oh, good.
discuss.
Do you think you could do that in the next couple weeks?
Yes, sir.
Okay, even better. Then that's great. We can get this to them as soon as possible, and then you can call a meeting, and that way great.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner Glassman. Yes,
Mayor, since you're on the topic of Tunnel Top Park,
yes.
if we may, we'd like to provide an update.
Yes, provide an update.
And for that, we're asking Mr. Ben Rogers to share those
Thank you.
updates.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commission. Ben Rogers, Director of Train Station Mobility. And the status of Tunnel Top Park is we've prioritized the southern areas in advance of some of the events that are coming. And so we are on schedule right now to have from Las Olas south to the river substantially completed by the end of November, with the Tunnel Top extension portion being done sometime during the month of December, early January. One of the things that impacts that timeline is weather, and then the color selection of the concrete. So last week, a memo was drafted, and the contractor poured some color samples out at Snyder Park of what the tunnel top concrete would look like. And they just need confirmation from the city that we can move forward with that so they can order that. If we give them that confirmation today or tomorrow, then they should be on schedule and everything should be aligned for the end of November for the southern portions of the plaza.
So while you're in communication with FDOT, it would be important, I think, if you could, on behalf of the city, make them aware of these art installation projects that we're talking about, because I'm not sure what the weight load is for the extension. I'm sure it's substantial, but I think they should also be made aware, because I think they're going to somehow feel they have ownership of the project, and they, just to inform them, not to include them, but to inform them what our plans are.
Yeah, we'll do. I've already started those conversations with the city manager's office about the weight and the engineering aspects. Also, if there needs to be an easement or any kind of dedication from FDOT to place it above the tunnel.
Okay, great.
Right. And then who would actually be deciding the exact locations of these pieces?
I think that people in the business should be making that decision, like
Good.
Josh and his people. they're the experts in this in terms of proper placement. When you make decisions by committee, it often goes askew. So I would like to suggest that we use the people that we've hired to make those decisions.
I agree. Maybe they can choose the color of the pavers as well.
In all seriousness, if there's no objection, I'll confirm that with FDOT tonight so we can stay on schedule.
Okay.
Thank you.
They're not pavers, by the way. It's stamped concrete.
Stamped concrete. Well, I understand.
Okay.
Do you need, Ben, sorry, and if I missed this, when do you need decisions on the color?
As soon as possible. I'd like to confirm with FDOT tonight or tomorrow. I've got some materials if you want to see them.
Yep.
But they're
pressure.
pretty consistent with all of the renderings that have been done throughout the entire project.
Yep.
I'm good with the beige one.
They're like 20 shades of beige they're
Yeah,
giving us.
yeah, I know. Yeah, right. Okay, so you,
Yeah, if there's no objections from the commission today, then I'll go ahead and give that confirmation
I
tonight.
mean, have you all seen the pictures? I just want to,
I have no.
You're good?
No
Okay.
interest, I think there's not much choice, so just whatever you decide, go
Yeah.
ahead.
I'm good.
Leave it up to you. It's your district.
Can you?
And your legacy, by the way.
Right, exactly.
Don't blame me. It was the vice mayor that
We're
picked
going to
this.
put a plaque by the stamped concrete.
Thank
for
you. Just a little one. Yeah, just a little small one. That'd be perfect.
Can I put my handprint in it?
That's right. You can Fort Lauderdale walk. Can you just run I just want to, again, make sure we're just getting a little bit of feedback from Downtown Civic Association and Las Olas. Could you run it by them for their feedback?
Yeah, so it was a point of discussion. FDOT did a quarterly meeting last week.
Yep.
And that was one of the discussions that was brought up.
Oh, good.
So I believe that the community is in support of it and looking
Okay.
for us to confirm so we can stay on the
Perfect.
timeline.
As long as yep, I'm good with it. Thank you. Thanks,
Okay.
Mayor.
Anything else? Okay, so now we have commission reports. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Let's see. Okay, Friday, October 7th, it was a pleasure to attend the Downtowner of the Year Awards. Everyone was so incredibly deserving of all of the awards in the different categories, and Charlie Ladd was actually selected as the Downtowner of the Year. That was a lot of fun, the entire event. Tuesday, the 11th, I did attend the Broward County Commission meeting for the Solid Waste Working Group. I will just tell you that it was a bit disappointing. The Solid Waste Working Group has worked for almost 2 years. We've met every 2 weeks for 2 hours, came up with a very comprehensive interlocal agreement between the county and all of the cities in the county. And I sat through that Broward County Commission meeting and listened to them just talk about one aspect of who's going to override who, the counties or the cities, and it was one provision that really had nothing to do with the substance of the ILA, so we'll see how far that goes. Unfortunately, I'm going to miss the next Solid Waste Working Group meeting because it's scheduled the same day that we have the ribbon cutting for the boat show. I would love to have gone to that meeting because that's going to be quite a meeting.
We have to
when-
all make sacrifices.
Yes, we do. But Melissa, wherever you are, take good notes of that meeting because that's going to be a meeting, I'm sure, when all of the cities weigh in on what happened at the county commission. So very interesting. It always is. Saturday the 15th. By the way, the 14th was the mayor's birthday. Happy birthday, Mayor.
Thank you.
Hope it was a good one.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. The 15th, I did attend the Pioneer Day ceremony in Wilton Manors. They did a great job over at the venue on Wilton Drive. And it was really a terrific celebration. Great crowd, lots of cities. And I want to, again, congratulate Roosevelt Walters, who was our city's pioneer selection. Really a terrific event. Always a pleasure to be in Wilton Manors. Even though that city legally separated from Fort Lauderdale 75 years ago because they did not want to pay their portion of the city debt, but we're not going to hold that against them. Let's see. Also,
Walters recognized in Wilton Manors.
excuse me? No. This was the county's, I'm sorry, the Broward County
Oh, okay.
Pioneer Day event was held in Wilton Manors this year. They rotate that event in different cities throughout the county. But that was a Broward County Historic Preservation Board event.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
No problem. I think it was like their 40-something in a row annual. Also on the 15th, I did attend the International Swimming Hall of Fame's 57th annual honorary induction ceremony and dinner over at the Marriott. And I will tell you, the folks that attend that event from around the world, it's really incredible, and to meet all of these incredible Olympic people from both swimming, diving, synchronized swimming, and I will tell you that they are so excited from all of these people all around the world are so excited about our aquatics complex, the high diving platform, and what's to come on the bookends of the peninsula with regards to the new buildings for the Swimming Hall of Fame. and they just had nothing but praise for the city, because many of them were actually touring around the city for the weekend. I had the honor of sitting at a table with the Australian ambassador to the United States and his wife, and I just will tell you that the city has a really good buzz worldwide.
So you're our ex officio member on the board. Do they have they come up with a time frame for the International Swimming Hall of Fame project, the new buildings? Have they come out with any details on that yet?
Well, this commission, we've approved, I believe, the interim comprehensive agreement, right? Alan, didn't we do an interim?
For which group?
For
the Swimming Hall of Fame?
Yes, we did.
Yes, so we have that we've approved, and now we're waiting for the comprehensive agreement to come back to us.
Which we are working on with outside counsel and their counsel.
Okay, so any possible idea when that might come in front of us? Alan or
I
Greg?
don't exactly. I know there was some follow-up financial that there were some things that changed that I think PFM was looking into some of the
Yes.
update financials.
Yes.
And then we have our team of lawyers working with theirs. So I don't have an exact timetable because we've had others that we've been working on, but maybe Greg does. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a 2-week frequent meeting that takes place, and there have been some significant developments. We just want to make sure that the finances are there for this to be a viable solution.
Excellent. So, again, we have approved the interim, we're just waiting for the comprehensive
Right,
agreement.
but when you say you have to make sure the financing is in place, that's a big step. What is going to take us to get to that point?
Otis, so they have to provide certain. They have to share with us how they're going to bring in the revenue that's needed
Right.
to support the capital and the payback for the capital, and they're getting letters of commitment. They're getting sponsorship letters as well from some corporate sponsors. So all that will be necessary to present to you a comprehensive agreement that will provide the financial support and sustainability for the project.
But are we laying out the money to start to build this?
It's not so much laying the money to start, but a lot of how this is financed will be based on the revenues they're going to generate. So part of the issue with the interim agreement was to allow them time to go procure those lease commitments and so on and so forth, as well as the financing and so on, in that respect. Because the problem and the risk the city faces here is if there's a shortfall in regards to those abilities to get leasing, that's going to fall back on the city. There's a risk component there where it's going to cost us more at that point.
I
from
get
our
that.
view of it,
I
right?
understand that. But I mean, who's putting up the money? Are we borrowing it? How are we financing the construction of the buildings?
We are not. They should be.
So the
So we're gonna
International
end
Swimming
up-
Hall of Fame organization is taking out the loan to build the building or securing
Correct,
donations?
that's my understanding.
Yes.
The construction, everything will be handled by them. As we go forward, then we are going to essentially be paying them payments for the next, 30 years?
Yes, and so
30
we're
years.
paying payments back, we're making that commitment, but at the same time, they're saying that our payments will be offset with the revenues that they're going to provide from sponsorship and naming rights. And that's the part that we really want to make sure that that is accurate, because if not, we have a
understand.
very high.
But I just
annual
want to know
payment.
who's coming up with the money to begin with. And
Well,
you're
there's a
saying-
partnership, it's the Capital Group, what is the partnership, Capital Group 3, or, I can't remember the exact name.
Yeah,
but there's a whole
few-
partnership.
There's a few, it's a consortium.
There's a few entities involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, to make a long story short, people were very excited. They had about 350 attendees at the induction ceremony on Saturday evening. Really nice. Yesterday, had an interesting meeting. As you know, we've always been we've been struggling with the balance on A1A and the lighting and the turtles and, the safety aspect of the way A1A and the whole barrier island looks in that area. So I did meet yesterday with, and I want to thank Ina Lee for putting that meeting together, but we had a meeting during the day with several of the major hotels in that area, as well as the representative from Broward County, and also we met with a representative from the state's Fish and Wildlife. We met during the day, we talked for about an hour and a half, and then at 8 o'clock last night, we took a tour together just to see the exact conditions on A1A and the Barrier Island during the evening. It was a very well-intentioned meeting, and I think that we did come up with some ideas that we need to pursue and hopefully come to some sort of meeting of the minds where our businesses and our residents are just not getting fined all the time because they really are trying to come up with a way to make this work. I personally think when I read about or I talk to other folks from other parts of the state, I don't know why Fort Lauderdale seems to be, we just seem to be more focused. Yes, yes. I mean, you can go down the coast, the East Coast. I don't think Miami Beach, and then even these places where they have condos, hotels on the sand, I don't think that all these people are getting fined and cited every single day. I don't think what some of those single-family neighborhoods, if you come up north a little bit from Miami, you have these communities where they have single-family homes on the beach.
Golden Beach, for example.
Yeah, Golden Beach. I want to see what those numbers are. I want to see how many people are being cited there. And yet now, after all of our businesses and condos came into compliance a few years ago on the Barrier Island and even got little certificates of compliance, do you know what the next step is now? The outside lighting isn't even the issue anymore. It's the internal lighting in the buildings. So what do? You tell hotels totally tint your windows so that when tourists come and pay $500, $600, $700 a night, they're going to open up their hotel room door and look and see straight out and go, where's the ocean? That looks so dark, because they have a big tinted window. I just think that we have to come to some sort of sensible meeting of the minds where, you know, the turtles are protected, but yet also there's some safety aspect on the beach. It is so dark. I actually watched a woman trip last night on our tour because she couldn't see where the curb was as she was crossing the street. There are so many areas where there are not synchronized lights, where if a car is coming and then makes a turn onto one of the side streets, it amazes me that we haven't had accidents. All of these beautiful properties are totally in the dark. They can't have any lights on the landscaping or the buildings. And now we're talking about going after lights inside the buildings. I mean, I don't know. We need to figure this out, though, because
How do we figure this out? In what forum is that conversation going to take place? And are we able to?
Ina and Romola have been working on this for like 2 decades, I think. I don't know if we get I don't know. Maybe our state elected officials, maybe the governor. I don't know. I don't know how this goes. All I know is that there always seems to be another benchmark, a higher bar that we have to meet with regards to the preservation of the turtles. And I understand they are an endangered species, but I also understand when I read the data that 1 in 1,000 of these hatchlings lives.
Oh, when they do make it out to sea.
One out of 1,000 of the hatchlings actually matures into a full-grown turtle, because there are so many hazards once they do enter the sea. So I don't know. Other places, Miami, I think, is collecting the nests and putting them all in one place and then just guarding them. There are places where you have turtle farms. I mean, if you know that only 1 in 1,000 hatchlings are going to survive to adulthood, isn't there a way to collect them or anoint who that 1 in 1,000 is going to be and protect them till they grow up? I don't know. I mean, I'm not a biologist. I'm not an expert.
Didn't we apply with the state for some kind of modification to their rule? I thought there was an application process that we began. Do you remember that?
That was to ease up it was to mitigate some of the protocols that we use, I guess, to, like when Tortuga comes, there were a variety of things that we were required to do, and it gives us the ability to do that to accommodate some of the activity we have on the beach. But I don't have the full details. That was quite a while ago.
Yeah. And there's, when we took the tour last night, we have so many streetlights that are just not on A1A. Now, turtle season is over at the end of this month, I believe, and then we have 4 months of no turtle season. So I'm wondering, will all those overhead streetlights be turned on? And I'm talking from way north of Sunrise all the way to the major, tourist area.
Are
the
you talking
Central
about
Beach.
the ambient lighting or the?
No, I'm talking about the really tall
street
light
lights?
fixtures, because now there's a whole debate about whether you do amber lighting, whether you do, lighting that's typical lighting that's not the amber lighting, whether you can have dual lighting systems where you have amber lighting during turtle season, and then the white light during that. But didn't we have a presentation on lighting, future lighting programs? I remember we had a presentation.
So
FDOT that did that?
FDOT did come here the other day and talk about lighting, but we also have staff that can talk about how it works throughout the year, if you'd like right now to talk on that topic.
Sure.
Mr. Ben Rogers?
Good afternoon, Mayor Commissioner Ben Rogers, Transportation Mobility. So I was fortunate, as one of my first tasks with the city was to be assigned to the turtle lighting call. So very informative on the subject. You are correct. I and the lead's been working very diligently on this for years. And about a year ago, we took the conversation and we memorialized it into a working document. So we have a charter that we work with every month with FP&L, FDOT, and the state agencies, county agencies on turtle lighting. And one of those tasks were exactly what you were talking about last night, is to do a biannually tour of the area to make sure that we understand compliance and challenges and things that we can improve on. So there's a multitude of tasks that we've created in this charter and memorialized the efforts to. And one of them, to your question, is to create a standard operating procedure for all the lights on the barrier island. So that way we know what day we hit the switch, what that switch goes to, what lights will turn on or off with that switch. Some of them don't have switches. Some of them have fuses or breakers where we actually have to physically unwire the light structures. And so it's evolving, but we do have a standard document that we're working towards with all of our partner agencies right now on trying to mitigate some of these concerns.
No, thank you, Ben. When I was on tour with these folks from the state and the county, it struck me, they're focusing and taking photos of the lights in the buildings, in the rooms and whatever. And I'm saying to them, what about all these cars that are speeding by with their headlights, with these white, bright headlights? Like, it's a constant flow of traffic, of car lights, brake lights, headlights. So why isn't that disorienting to the turtles? Are you going to tell people they can't drive on A1A because of their headlights? Or when you're driving on A1A, turn your lights off on your car?
Don't speak too loudly. They may hear you.
I mean, but you can just take this to the point of being so ridiculous where you don't even know how to figure it out, because that's all I was focusing on. I'm looking at a street that's so uninviting rather for tourists because it's so dark. You really, to me, I think it's a safety issue where people are afraid, and I would be nervous about a car even hitting a pedestrian. But we need to figure this out, because there has to be a happy medium where we can make sure that the incident of the deaths of the turtles is not, exploding, but at the same time, we have to also make sure that, people are safe.
Well, maybe to your point, we should find one of these baby turtles and incubate them for a few years, and 1 out of 1,000, and that way we know for sure that.
Well, no,
we're
that's
contributing to the population.
Well, as I said, in Miami, they're actually moving nests. They're moving nests to a centralized location and freeing up the rest of the beach area, and therefore not having. I guess they must have gotten some sort of permission to do that, and then have more lighting in those areas if they're removing the nests, because that's what this is all about. This is all about those nests.
Or Ben or Phil, I don't know whose jurisdiction this is, but is there some way we can inquire, do some research, and see what the neighboring cities are doing to try to mitigate the impact on their beach properties?
Yeah, what I would suggest is maybe I share this charter with the commission, and then if you want, we can add or modify the tasks and add additional tasks that you want to further evaluate with
I think to the commissioner's point, though, other cities seem to be getting away with murder, that we somehow are missing the opportunity to try to help out the communities and not be so heavily impacted by these regulations.
Understood, and we'll look into it, and also just to remind you that there is that CRA project that will have dual lighting out there, and that project is advancing. One of the other tasks that we've asked the state to do is to provide additional lighting options in their catalog for approval, some more economical devices on a wider array of selection. And so that's one of their deliverables that they're working on as well.
Thank you. And, I know it's a tough dance because there are very aggressive groups that like to, go to court over the issue of the turtles. And I understand all that, but we still have to figure out a way to navigate through this issue. Phil?
So the only other thing I would add, Commissioner, is that, as Ben mentioned, we are looking at the dual lighting pedestrian lights. That we actually have a meeting tomorrow with the manager. We did get the prices in for that. Hopefully, we can afford to do that along with the CRA dollars along the west side of the beach, and that will help a lot. The other thing, as you mentioned, it's been probably 20 years now, but when I first came here, we did relocate the nests. There was a cage down by the, at the time we called it the South Beach area, the Fort Lauderdale Beach Park, where we would, went through the county, through NOVA, would relocate those nests. And I'd say probably 15 so years ago, the state decided that was not proper, and they felt the turtles should be left in their natural state and not be relocated. So they stopped doing that. And we wanted to continue to do it because, as you said, it made a lot of sense to us, but they did not allow that to happen anymore. So it went back to the natural areas. Then lastly, I'll just say, whether it's true or not, but I understand that Broward County has a lot tougher restrictions than the other counties to the north and to the south of us, various reasons, the kind of turtles, when they come, when they leave, things like that. But we can revisit all that. But we do have a lot of tight, stringent restrictions in Broward that I understand are not as restrictive to the north and south of us.
I was told last night that I think Miami or maybe Miami Beach, I'm not sure, but they are relocating nests. I think someone still is relocating nests.
They probably are, like I say, and we used to be able to do that. They used to do that in Broward, but then they stopped doing that a few years ago. It's been quite a few
Was
years
it
ago.
Broward that told us we couldn't relocate?
No, it was the state through the Fish and Wildlife and
Okay. I don't understand why they would tell us that, but they wouldn't tell other cities.
well,
that
I think it was the county itself. Again, it's been a while, but I believe that they decided in Broward County that they wanted to leave the nests where they were and not allow the county, cities along in Broward County, to relocate them to a enclosure anymore. But again, it's been a few years, but we can revisit all that again.
Okay, thanks. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention because I just think that it's an issue that we need to start really concentrating on a little bit. Okay, let's see. Coming up, Flagler Village is meeting on Wednesday. Thursday, I'll be joining the vice mayor, so I'll let him talk about that, but we'll be doing a press conference for the economic impact of the arts with the county over at the NSU Art Museum. Also that evening, Central Beach Alliance is meeting and the Lake Ridge Civic Association is meeting. Friday, October 21 is the Diwali Festival at the Las Olas Oceanside Park, along with the Winterfest launch party that night. And then Tuesday the 25th, South Middle River Civic Association meeting. Barbie Pearson is having her artist reception for the photography in the lobby. If you haven't taken a look at it, take a look at all the pieces. It's really nice. Wednesday the 26th, I cannot believe it's been a year, but we have the ribbon cutting for the Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show on Wednesday the 26th. That is a busy week of events, Global Business Luncheon, so much happening throughout the week. I won't mention all of the events. Thursday, October 27th, the West Marine ribbon cutting on 1 East Broward Boulevard. Also the ribbon groundbreaking, for Advantage Station at Flagler Village. And then Saturday, October 29th, we have our city's Make a Difference Day. Lots going on in Fort Lauderdale. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple questions to start off. Let's see, Greg. Gotten some questions today about pickleball and just kind of status of it, where we are. Then kind of also question about there's post on Nextdoor petition to stop the pickleball possibilities in Snyder Park, and Phil, I don't know if you've heard about this. The neighbors are telling me there's a city employee that's moving the petition forward.
Yes.
So, yeah, so if you,
Yeah,
can you just give us,
So certainly
feedback on this
we
stuff?
we did bring it to director's attention. He's following up. There's we want to make sure that we have the grounds to address this issue because although there's freedom of speech, there's also a requirement for staff to not represent themselves or the sentiment of staff on such public forum. But Phil, do you want to share any updates because we haven't been able to talk today?
I would probably, Phil has consulted me on this. I probably wouldn't say too much more on it, but the communication that you're referring to is probably in most likelihood protected as a matter of public concern. But we're looking into that, but I wouldn't, I would refrain from adding any more details.
okay, great. I just want to make some notes so I can report
As
back.
to the status, we had a pretty productive meeting, I think 2.5-hour meeting with the folks from Pickleball. And we worked through, went page by page, line by line through the comprehensive agreement. So there were changes that we both agreed upon. And there were some follow-up also that with staff regarding some of the movement or change of locations for some staff offices. But now I'm awaiting a revised version of the comprehensive agreement from Ms. Bogdanoff. Once we receive that, I have a few things myself to add that I was tasked adding, and then we should be in a good place to have a comprehensive agreement.
Okay, thank you. I'm just. Okay, great. And then maybe this is more for you, Phil. It's from a neighbor. I also feel there should be at least 1 or 2 facilities. This is his email for us older folks to be able to play pickleball indoors during the summer. I know many of the facilities are used for children's program during the summer, but surely with all the facilities in the city, there should be somewhere that indoor facilities could be made available.
So we are aware of that. We, as you know, we used to use War Memorial
Right.
some, and I think they are still open to that idea when they get the building back open again, that they'll be able to provide that indoors. We do also offer that in the facilities that we have. We have at Beach Community Center, we have some times there and some of the gymnasiums. And again, to the complex at Snyder, I know they're looking at how they can offer things, whether it's indoors or at least in the shaded area, to help with some of those concerns.
And I have talked to the Panthers folks about War Memorial for indoor courts, and they were open to
Oh, great. Okay, so you're getting good feedback on that. Okay, perfect. So thank you, thank you. I'm going to send that out to them so they're updated. Let's see, another question. Maybe this is for Anthony or Chris. It's regarding Aviva, the Aviva condo, right next to Smoker Park. I think it's called Aviva, yeah. They're rock, paper, scissors for who's getting it. Nice. Such a passionate staff, Mayor, just dedicated public
Waiting
servants.
to see who gets to respond to you. I see Chris grudgingly is making his way
Chris.
to the podium.
Smile on my face. Hi.
Incredibly excited. Thanks, Chris. So let me see if I can just summarize this. Is Ocean Landing planning another flip of the property or changing the building plans? Why are they allowed to leave a mess for the people to view on the southern river walk going past Smoker Park? Does the city have restrictions on just abandoning construction work? I fear Ocean Land may be up to no good, is what this neighbor's sharing. So, yeah, anything you can share there?
Yeah, so Chris Cooper, Director of Development Services. I haven't heard that the project is in any state of flux or sale or anything like that. So if there's construction issues or there's a mess on the site, we can certainly have somebody go check that out and get that cleaned up.
Okay, great. And no change of plans or, yeah.
Not that I've seen. They just got their final DRC not that long ago.
Thank you. And then, let's see, yeah, thanks. That's it there, Chris. Greg, helicopters traveling over the New River. Concerns about kind of frequency and altitudes of some helicopters feeling like there's low altitude and close to buildings.
So I want to call Rufus to come up and talk about that or answer your question.
Yep. Thanks.
So you're saying that there are helicopters flying over the New River, very low?
Correct.
Perhaps they're trying to reach our helipad?
An orange, older helicopter has been flying close to the water garden and lower altitudes. Is there any way to address this?
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor, Commissioner Rufus James, Executive Airport. So as it relates to altitudes for aircraft, below 500 feet, it's uncontrolled airspace, and typically aircraft are permitted to fly at that altitude. However, it can't be over densely populated areas. So I can use for reference our helistop. When helicopters are entering that airspace, they do have to be in communication with FLL and get permission to enter the airspace. Once they're below 500 feet, they don't have to talk to FLL tower. Similar to along the coastline, you'll notice banner towers will go up and down the coastline. Typically, they remain below 500 feet, and they don't have to be in communication with the air traffic control tower.
Okay. So in other words, permissible to fly at those low altitudes?
Below altitude and obviously in a safe manner.
You mentioned there was orange.
Yeah, that's right.
So our attorney advised that may be a Coast Guard helicopter.
Yep. This person's saying it's not Coast Guard, but yeah. Okay.
Well, you know what? We could look at our logs for the helipad to see if there was an orange helicopter and look at how we can mitigate that for future.
Perfect. That sounds great. Thanks, Rufus. Appreciate that. Thanks, Greg. It's great. Let's see here. Next up. That's that. Great. I think that's all I've got right now. Thanks, Mayor.
It's up to you, Vice Mayor. There is no mayor anymore.
The mayor's left the building.
It's just
Wow.
you and me.
How are we going to survive without his mayoral report?
No, slam the gavel though while you got it.
Well, with that being said, is anything else, Commissioner Glassman, to cover?
You know, I'm good. Did we finish the agenda?
We did. I had some
City
comments.
manager report?
I had some reports.
Great, go for it.
All right, so very
Good job,
proud
Vice
to sponsor an organization that actually started out at here, which is the National Forum for Black Public Administrators. They're having a leadership conference next week in Palm Beach Gardens, and we are sending 10 staff members so that they can benefit from the professional development and leadership training modules that will be hosted there. The mayor came back. I'm not sure if he wants to.
What's that? What was the
I finished my report, Mayor, so if you had your
Oh,
mayoral
okay, I'm
report
sorry.
you'd like to share, and then Greg has one or two items.
Okay, all right. Okay, great, thank you. So this past month has been definitely an adventure, and I want to thank the Vice Mayor for taking over the responsibilities of the mayor while I was gone. I appreciate that. So a number of months ago, I decided to take a vacation the second week of October in Greece, and it coincided with my birthday. And as I was making plans for the trip, I thought, well, while I'm over there, what other opportunities could the city benefit from by my visiting places that, based on offers that we've had in the past, that we've never really taken advantage of. So in doing so, I was able to visit some other cities and other places, and it started out with a meeting in Duisburg, Germany, which happens to be one of our sister cities. We reaffirmed our 10-year anniversary as a sister city relationship, but also the city sponsored 3 of us to come over there and participate in the Urban Diplomacy Exchange Program, which basically talked about climate change, resilient infrastructure, and also we got to talk about reaffirming our commitment to a student exchange program, something which the city and the sister city program had done in the past under Nucha McCormick. We were there for 4 days, and Dr. Nancy Gassman, myself, and Scott Wyman, my chief of staff, were able to participate in the program. And I want to thank again the city of Duisburg for hosting us and sponsoring us to participate in this program. It came on the very heels of our visit to Washington. We were in Washington that week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We had the commission meeting Thursday, and the very next morning we were on a plane to Germany. So I'm not getting any younger, but anyway, we survived the trip. And after going to Germany, but interesting, they have a city museum. We have a museum, but this is like an intense museum of the city, its history, all the events that occurred since the Middle Ages and before. And lo and behold, there's a Fort Lauderdale room dedicated specifically to photos and artifacts and keepsakes that represent Fort Lauderdale, that were given to the city back when the relationship was first established between our 2 cities. So it was kind of nice to see a Fort Lauderdale room. It was kind of cool. Then I was able to participate in the Monaco Boat Show, sort of a boat show with whom we have a friendly rivalry, just to kind of see best practices there. The folks, the Ferretti folks, sponsored my participation. And by the way, next Tuesday, right before the beginning of the boat show, on October 25th, I invite everybody to join me for the ribbon cutting for their new showroom expansion on 16th Street. It's at 6 p.m. And they have one of the largest showrooms in our city, and they're one of the largest yacht builders in the world. So we're very privileged to have them in our community. So it was very interesting. It's a much smaller boat show, mostly large boats, and they charge $500 a person to get into the boat show. So it's a very limited crowd, the Louis Vuitton crowd, and I met a number of boat owners, boat manufacturers, and at the same time, I was able to meet with some Monaco public officials. I met with the mayor of Monaco, who, as a result, is now going to be attending our boat show next week, and what they call the Secretary General of their yacht club is also going to be attending our boat show next week. So I think it's a real honor to host them and to have them come to our community. They probably would never have visited Fort Lauderdale but for this acquaintance that I had with them a couple of weeks ago. So again, another dividend to having these visits to places around the world, getting Fort Lauderdale more and more known throughout the world, and to allow people to experience the greatness that we all take for granted in many ways. Following that visit, I traveled to a northern city of Greece called Thessaloniki, and we signed a new sister city agreement. And met with the mayor, I met with the consul general, the American consul general, and the deputy ambassador who happened to be in the area at the time, and exchanged a lot of great ideas about climate change. But they were most focused on the fact that they are hosting Euro Pride in 2024, and they wanted our input because they realized that we've had successful Pride events in our own city, so they're looking forward to making further connections with us. Great city, perfect sister city relationship. They're a coastal city, also ancient history that they have, that they share with many of the other cities, of course, in Greece. And, it took them 17 years to build their subway system. And I said, why did it take so long to build your subway system? Because every time they dug a hole, they found some previous civilization that they had to stop the construction and excavate and form a museum around it. So next week they're finally opening their subway system after 17 years. And we thought it took a long time to dig a hole in our port to allow the bigger tankers to come through. Anyway, that was a great visit. I stayed a couple of extra days just to tour on my own, and then of course, I was then able to take my vacation, and I was exhausted. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for their patience and their filling in, and it was a great experience, and I'm glad to be back now. Okay, so I'm off again to this urban diplomacy initiative with the folks from Duisburg. I have to go to Washington tomorrow and to wrap up the program. Dr. Gassman will be joining us, as well as, in fact, I think she's there today, and I'll be participating in a ceremony tomorrow night, as well as a mayor's roundtable on Thursday morning, and I should be back Thursday night. I will also be participating with Commissioner Glassman at the Diwali event at Oceanside Park at 6 p.m. this Friday, and also Friday night is the Winterfest Boat Parade opening party. What's it called? The launch party.
Launch party.
Right, and that's also on Friday night. The theme is what is it? Neon Splash or something?
Neon chic, I think.
Neon chic. Okay, so
we do that every day, don't we?
I'm sorry?
Don't we do that every day?
Yes, we do that every day. Not always neon, but certainly chic. October 25th, again, the night before the opening of the boat show, there's an opening of Hoff's House of Sweets on Las Olas at 5 p.m. I'll be attending the ribbon cutting there, and Hoffman Chocolates has reimagined their storefront operation, and they've invested quite a bit in their new site. So I'm looking forward to that.
What's the date of that, Mayor? No, they've moved it.
I have it on the 25th at 5.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Again, I mentioned the Ferretti Yachts showroom expansion opening, 1445 Southeast 16th Street. That's at 6 p.m. And then that same time at 6 p.m., there's a launch party at Bonnet House for the new Edition Hotel. It shouldn't be called hotel. It's really they're condominiums. They are a hotel brand, but these are going to be condominiums in the North Beach Village area. So everyone's welcome to that. It's going to be a great party at Bonnet House. Last time I attended a launch party at Bonnet House for a condominium was the Trump International Hotel. Remember that? Remember that, Commissioner? I think you were there.
No, I don't think I was.
You weren't there?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Also that night, Guy Harvey, Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show open house on Las Olas from 7 to 9 p.m. At his retail establishment there on Las Olas Boulevard. It's going to be a busy night, folks.
You know, Mayor, you and I both skipped over October 25th, and we forgot to mention the circuit party over at Patio Pizza and Grill.
Oh.
That's October 25th as well.
It's going to be a busy night.
It is. That's going to be for the circuit launch party, right? I think I just saw that today. That's probably why it wasn't on my list.
Okay, sorry.
Commissioner, did you mention Diwali?
Diwali,
I
we
did
both
mention
did.
Diwali.
You both did,
Friday
okay.
night.
We both did. I said Diwali. The mayor said Diwali.
It's Diwali.
I think it's Diwali.
Diwali.
Like a
Yeah, I
V,
think it's
yes.
Diwali.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
I have a different accent.
The circuit launch event is on October 25th at 5 p.m.
5 to 8.
5 to 8.
You don't need to get there at 5.
5 to 8? Okay.
And circuit is helping residents and visitors to get around cleaner, greener, and easier.
So the next day, October 26th at 9:30 a.m., at 10 a.m., we're having the ribbon cutting for the Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show at the Broward County Convention Center. I guess they moved it this year. Then at lunchtime, the Marine Industry Association of South Florida is having their global business luncheon at the Bahia Mar. That's at Face Dock 19. I think they have it on that boat every year. That's at 11:30. And then that evening is the mayor's reception for the boat show at the Super Yacht Village at 7 p.m. Please confirm your attendance if you're able to come and those that you're inviting as guests. The next day, there's a marine industry breakfast that's being sponsored by Gold Coast Marine Industry, and the welcome remarks at 8:30 a.m. at Bahia Mar. I may not be able to attend. I may have to go back to Washington that day, but if you are able to attend, I recommend everybody try to get to that breakfast. The Global Commerce Exchange International Reception at Bahia Mar is at 4 p.m. that afternoon. And the West Marine Grand Opening, as you said, Commissioner Glassman, is also taking place that afternoon at 5:30 p.m. at their new location right across the street. So, October 28th, I should be back, and I will be participating as a panelist as part of a continuing legal education course on Don't Say Gay and the anti-woke legislation. It's at 4 p.m. at the main building here in downtown Fort Lauderdale. It should be it should be a very interesting discussion regarding the impact of these statutes on our local community. And I guess that's it. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So just wanted to highlight that at this year's Florida Redevelopment Association Awards Banquet, Fort Lauderdale received recognition in 2 Best in Class awards. An award was given for the most outstanding new building project for the YMCA Meisel Community Center, and also the most outstanding rehabilitation, renovation, reuse project was given for the Sistrunk Marketplace and Brewery. So congratulations to the City Commission for supporting such projects, and to all stakeholders who contributed to these as well. As you've noted, the Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show starts next week, and we heard the Commission loud and clear. We are promoting a campaign to provide awareness to the neighbors on how to get around and which are the peak times and what will be the best paths to get to and from the boat show, and improve our outreach so that everyone knows about the boat show.
And Greg, are we going to have extra folks staffing the Barrier Island? You know, we've always had issues with events on the Barrier Island, but we've always said that we needed extra personnel to direct traffic, the whole event, and also especially, you know, at the beginning and the end, and just keep things flowing. But I just wanted to ask that question because in the past, it's been a little, you know, just difficult.
Yeah, I'd like to ask Chief of Police to provide that update for you.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. We do have a traffic plan in place, and we'll be monitoring it closely. We have had some meetings leading up to this, so there have been some modifications. So hopefully it will be a little bit more convenient this time around.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chief.
Expect a memo with details that you'll receive very soon.
Thank you.
I also wanted to address City Auditor's memo that was released on Friday. We acknowledge many of the details that were provided there. I'd like to also have an opportunity to clarify that staff is available to answer any question from the auditor. It's imperative that all questions are answered, so definitely we made sure that that happened. We also have started taking steps to improve the overall event delivery process. As noted earlier, we did provide the Commission a schedule of events with associated budget, and we will adhere to that strictly. We've asked staff to amplify the planning process so that there's ample time for risk, legal, and budget review. We also taken measures, for instance, that although there is a resolution from the commission since 2014 that allows the park department to execute certain type of contracts, moving forward, all contracts will be executed by the city manager's office and will be reviewed also by legal. And also part of our course correction is that we want to host ethics training for all staff so that we adhere to the charter. And we are working with the Office of Management and Budget Structural Innovation Division so that we can review the process, so that we can have an enhanced level of oversight, accountability, and transparency. And we look forward to working with the auditor's office to ensure that we are aligned and have sufficient controls moving forward.
If I could jump on that as well, my office would also like to respond to the report because I think there was some misconception on how contracting works and how the process has been since 2014. So we'd like to correct those statements from the report.
Okay, but still, there's still a story to be told here, right?
Certainly is, but we just wanted it to be more accurate.
Yeah, we understand that. That's fine. But I appreciate your work that you're doing, Mr. Riley, and this is just, it's astounding what took place. So thank you for your continued efforts to try to uncover the answers.
Yes, and Mayor, I'm sorry, Greg, but you just to, segue into this, in the past when we have had auditor reports on a variety of issues, then there has always been a follow-up with a document that has management response to the recommendation. So I'm hoping that we'll eventually see a document like that will address all of the auditor's recommendations, and obviously what Alan needs to clean up as well, and just so that it puts it to bed with some finality and has management's response to those.
Absolutely. And again, yes, we will do that. We will certainly provide a follow-up memo, a response memo, and even a presentation if needed of all the things that we are revamping. But just wanted to give you this, I just want to take this opportunity to let you know we are working on that. And it is important for us to make sure that all controls are in place and that we adhere to policies and even create policies that help us be better in that delivery. Okay. I also wanted to talk a little bit about on October 19th in the evening, Safe Harbor Lauderdale Marine Center is going to do a ribbon cutting and showcase their newest marinas that have been delivered. And since the marina is a very important part of our local economy, they support an additional 35 new super yacht berths on 5 acres on the New River across from a 65-acre facility. That's what they're ribbon cutting. And so this is actually an improvement for the community as it converts what was before a derelict property and now improves also the Shady Banks area. And so there's going to be a celebration, also a $50,000 check to present to the city. If any elected officials are available to attend, certainly they are invited. I will be attending that event. And then on...
Giving us $50,000? For what? Out of the goodness of
I was just told $50,000, so definitely we'll bring that over to you all and see what it's for.
Okay.
I also wanted to mention that on October 27th, I was invited by the City and State Florida Digital Summit. I'll be part of a panel for government modernization in Florida, and the panel will talk about how outdated systems can be improved in leveraging technology, and how it helps communities provide government with prompt response and also modernize efficiencies. And last, just want to say we're very excited for all the projects that are to come and looking forward to this evening's meeting.
All right, thank you. Mr. Boileau, do you have any report?
I'd like to give an update. And I've shared this with you all individually. And I think it's important to just provide that to everyone. We have been working very hard with the city attorney's office and other staff members as well. Alan Dodd has been leading the way for the water treatment plant discussion. We haven't presented a comprehensive agreement yet to the city because there's still certain factors that involve risk and involve also addressing labor services agreements. And so right now we're still working on those, and we've asked the water plant proposer we've asked them to work on the needs that we have. And so we've given them our concerns, and until those items are resolved or until there is some certainty on the risks and what that risk cap is, we will not be submitting any comprehensive agreement forward to you all. I'm not sure if you'd like to add more on that. City
Just
Attorney?
wanted to add that, again, our teams, our legal teams, operational teams, labor teams have been working on the variety of agreements. We've raised some issues. I've talked also individually to you with regards with the corporate structure that we have a concern with, besides the risk aspects that have grown incredibly since this was originally proposed to us. The feedback we're getting from the other side is that this is times of the essence, obviously, but that if somehow this is not done by November 1st, that it's a no-go, or if this corporate structure is deviated from, and I'll give you an example, just IDE essentially would be running our water treatment plant, but the way it's structured now, we would not have a contract with them, which to me is not acceptable, and it would be hard for me to recommend that to you. So we're working on those things, but what we're being told is unless we go with the corporate structure, or if we don't meet the deadline of November 1st, in other words, this being before you, November 1st, that somehow this deal's not going to go forward. So we wanted to be upfront about that because that's what we're being told from the other side.
Well, it's that and the fact that, as the city manager indicated, the risk. Well, risk means more money and more potential for it costing the city and the ratepayers more money than was originally proposed. You know, there was a guaranteed maximum price in this proposal that they made, and now that price is being breached because of all these add-ons and what ifs and we forgot to mention this kind of stuff, and you know that's very concerning. If it were small fractions, small incremental increases, that would be one thing, but based on our private meetings, you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, which to me is, you know, not only concerning, but it seems to skew the whole process, and I'm not sure whether this commission can continue to go forward knowing that the price tag as originally represented is no longer available to us. So as it is, we're going to have to increase the price of water significantly just to cover the original cost. And so now we're looking at a much different cost. So I appreciate your, you know, bearing down on this and trying to get the best deal for our city. But, you know, I don't know if we can meet this November 1st deadline. So
No, plus, I really don't want us to be held hostage with
Yeah,
a
I
deadline
know.
of November 1, 2 weeks away. I'm much more concerned with all of the issues that you've talked about, and I want to make sure that, you know, we're not going to move forward just because someone's going to impose that kind of a deadline on us.
well, it's an artificial deadline.
Exactly,
It wasn't part of
exactly. I
any
mean,
deal.
it's up to management and the city attorney's office to make sure that the city is protected and, you know, all risk is mitigated, and you know we have to protect ourselves. And you know, actually, to make another point, I don't think it's such a bad idea to actually go past November 1st, because I think, you know, maybe the new commissioners need to hear this information. Maybe they need to be a part of this discussion. So again, I think there's a variety of reasons why we just have to make sure that, you know, we can't have a gun to our head. That's all.
Okay. Does that complete your report?
That concludes. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Anything further for the conference meeting? Meeting concluded. We have no CRA meeting, so we'll just resume at 6 o'clock.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Vice Mayor.